Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening, which was a good number. It was a pity that most of the resources had been incinerated by the flames. However, to be able to bring back so many people, they would still be able to receive good rewards. General Sun, we've found an extremely beautiful Zangnu woman, and she's quite strong as well. In order to capture her, many brothers were injured, a soldier came up and excitedly reported. Oh? Sun Wu also felt quite interested and said, bring her up. Following this, a few soldiers brought over a woman to Sun Wu. The woman was bound with ropes and looked quite beautiful. She had light brown-colored skin and 2 plaids on either side of her face. She looked at Sun Wu vehemently, with a hint of the wild nature of the ancient fallen clans. Seeing this woman, Sun Wu felt quite delighted and turned to the soldier who had reported and said, this woman is quite beautiful and can be given to His Majesty. If she possesses Phoenix Chi as well, we'll be able to obtain additional rewards. Sun Wu's words caused all of the soldiers to feel quite happy. Release me, you bandits. The Zangnu woman roared as she looked at the soldiers around her. Even though she spoke the Zangnu language, because of the language Stone steals in Great Kin, Sun Wu had already learned the Zangnu language and was able to understand her. However, Sun Wu did not mind. After all, it was often the ancient fallen clans who were the bandits. He ordered the soldiers to take her away, and they started back to the Great Kin city. General Wang, soldiers from the southwestern direction have reported that they've found a basic town with 40,000 residents, a soldier reported to Wang Jian. When it came to basic towns, there would always be a city lord leading at least 100,000 soldiers. Wang Jian nodded and immediately gathered 150,000 soldiers and 5 generals with city lord seals before heading in the southwestern direction. The remainder of the generals with city lord seals continued to remain within the Great Kin city and sent their senses in different directions to sense any changes in the situation. The soldiers quickly surrounded that basic town, and the 5 city lords' terrifying aura enveloped the basic town, causing its residents to descend into panic. Wang Jian did not give the order to attack, because with Great Kin's strength, they would be able to annihilate this basic town. As such, he was waiting for them to surrender first. The mayor of this basic town was a chubby middle-aged man, and he looked down at the dark mass of soldiers below and the terrifying aura they gave off. What was even more shocking was that most of them were stage 1 soldiers, and they even had 5 city lords standing in the air. It was not just the mayor but the entire town who were terrified. None of them had the heart to defend and felt incredibly terrified. Mayor, what should we do? Let alone the 150,000 soldiers outside, just the 5 city lords alone will be able to bathe our town in blood. We should surrender. Mayor. We can't fight against them, let's hurry and surrender before they attack. Mayor, if we don't surrender, we'll definitely die. Even if you don't think about us, you should think about the residents and your family. Who knows? Perhaps if you surrender, you can continue being the mayor. Mayor, they're right, we should surrender. We only have 8,000 soldiers and only a bit more than 40,000 residents. There's no hope in winning. Before Wang Jian even said anything, the people around the mayor all tried to convince him to surrender, and not a single one of them suggested resisting. After all, Great Kin could easily crush them, and none of them wanted to die for nothing. The chubby middle-aged man was called Zhang Quanfu, and he was the mayor of the 6-piece town. He looked quite troubled because he knew how terrifying the enemy was but was still a bit reluctant to surrender. 535 bronze doors. Wang Jian confidently looked down at the town and was not in a hurry to attack. He did not say anything either and only used his powerful aura to suppress the basic town. This powerful aura made the basic town feel an immense pressure everywhere, and the air seemed to have frozen. The soldiers on the town walls felt their hands rapidly sweating, and they nervously looked at the soldiers all around them. Everyone else in the town tried to convince Zhang Quanfu to surrender. In the end, after looking at Great Kin's terrifying soldiers, even his wife started to persuade him to surrender. She didn't want her husband and child to die. With the pressure on all sides, Zhang Quanfu started to sweat, and his expression was quite grim. He felt incredibly troubled and was leaning towards surrendering. If you surrender, Great Ken promises not to kill a single person in this town, and your mayor will still be the mayor. Wang Jian's voice finally sounded out in the air. Even though his voice was not very loud, it was filled with might and confidence and could be heard by everyone in the town. This was the final push necessary to convince Zhang Quanfu. Since the other side had promised that he would still be the mayor and because they would definitely lose if they fought, Zhang Quanfu immediately made a decision and called out, "We are willing to surrender." Following this, they opened the gates, and the soldiers and residents put down their weapons. Great Kin's soldiers streamed into Six-Piece Town and officially took over the town. After tallying all of their gains, they found that they had obtained 10,000 or so pieces of equipment, 80,000 silver coins, and around 41,000 people. This time, Great Kin had not suffered any losses to obtain such a great victory, and because basic towns were a prerequisite to upgrading to great cities, His Majesty would definitely be quite pleased. Wang Jian smiled before conquering and relocating the basic town, and he returned to the Great Kin city. Time continued to pass, and Great Kin's soldiers continued to conquer villages, causing Great Kin's population to continue to rise and for the territory it controlled to continue to increase. 10 or so days passed, and Great Kin had already swept through 1/3 of the Forest of Horrors. After clearing such a large area, the gains that they had made were quite great. First, Great Kin's population had risen to 4.4 million. Before, it had only been 3.3 million people, but after 20 days of clearing, they had obtained another 1.1 million people. The countless villages that they conquered also continued to spawn more people for them, and they now had 926 such villages. Great Kin had also conquered 4 basic towns and now had enough basic towns to upgrade to a great city and even had 2 more than necessary. Now, they only needed 1 more basic city to upgrade to a great city. Apart from population, Great Kin's army had also swelled to 800,000 soldiers. 500,000 or so of them were stage 1 soldiers, while the others' cultivations were not weak either, as they used blood god pills and stage 3 cultivation medicinal pills. Great Kin did not lack blood god pills. After breaking through so many system main cities, they had obtained many stage 1 corpses, and they still had 100,000 or so corpses that they had not used yet. What Zhao Fu was the most excited about was that Great Kin had nearly 10,000 stage 2 soldiers. With how powerful stage 2 soldiers were, they could easily defeat 8 or 9 stage 1 soldiers by themselves. Even though there were only roughly 10,000 of them, they were a powerful force. All of these stage 2 soldiers were essentially the soldiers who had joined Great Kin from the start. With the stage 2 Minotaur corpses from the gloomy jungle, they were able to refine a large number of stage 2 blood god pills, which was why Great Kin had nearly 10,000 stage 2 soldiers. However, the teams they had sent out had finished exploring the outside of the gloomy jungle and killed all of the goblins and minotaurs there. Even though Zhao Fu had not entered the inner regions yet, he knew that it was extremely dangerous, so he did not want the teams to enter yet. As such, the exploration teams returned, and Great Kin did not have any more goblin and minotaur corpses. This made Zhao Fu feel slightly disappointed. If Great Kin had a large number of stage 2 soldiers, their future would be safer. They would also have the confidence to face all kinds of threats. It was a pity that it was difficult to obtain stage 2 soldiers' corpses. Zhao Fu planned to explore the inner regions of the gloomy jungle when he had time to see what was inside. Perhaps he would find unexpected gains inside. Also, after Great Kin attacked villages, they would collect the corpses and store them safely, as they would be important in the future. Great Kin now also had 15 wyverns, and there were 10 that were able to fight. However, Zhao Fu felt that this was still not enough. There were now 7 mature wyverns, 4 male and 3 female, so Great Kin started to breed them. However, they still would not be able to obtain many wyverns in a short period of time. Wyverns were all incredibly powerful, and Zhao Fu planned to hide them as his trump card. He wanted to use them to suddenly explode out and sweep away everything in his path. Zhao Fu had also found 2 legatees for the Silver Lake Immortal equipment. One of them was Money, the Zangnu woman who Sun Wu had brought to Zhao Fu. When she was initially brought to Zhao Fu, she had loudly cursed at Zhao Fu, saying that they were incredibly shameless bandits and that she wanted to challenge him. As such, Zhao Fu had ordered the soldiers to let go of her and simply waved his hand, heavily wounding her. After that, she had been much better behaved. This was because not only had Zhao Fu defeated her in a fair fight, but he also had her relatives in his control, so she had to submit. Money had some phoenix chi and was only a bit less than the women from the main families of large families. Xianru had advised Zhao Fu to take in women from ancient fallen clans as it would be helpful to him when facing ancient fallen clans in the future, so Zhao Fu made her a concubine. Afterward, he had found that she was quite suitable for one of the Silver Lake Immortal legacies. As such, he had given her the Silver Lake Immortal saber. After receiving it, the saber automatically changed into a strange-looking saber that was quite suited to her. The second Silver Lake Immortal legatee was a male elf called Joss. He used to be the village chief of a village, and after being attacked by Great Kin, he had surrendered and been captured. The Silver Lake Immortal bow had trembled within Zhao Fu's spatial ring when he met Joss, so Zhao Fu decided to give the bow to Joss. Now, the shield, spear, sword, hatchet, and hammer were left. He would hopefully find suitable owners for them in the future, and he hoped that it would be sooner rather than later. The temperature became colder and colder, and now, a layer of frost covered all of the trees. Today, Li Wen once again came to Zhao Fu. Seeing Li Wen, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He most likely had not been able to collect enough soldier souls in such a short amount of time. After hearing from Li Wen, he heard that after opening up another passage, they had found a set of bronze doors. Zhao Fu felt quite curious and went to the passage in the underground region. In front of him was a 10-meter-tall set of bronze doors that gave off a faint light. The inscriptions and pictures on them were all from the Heaven Murder Empire, and the bronze doors gave off an ancient, powerful, mysterious aura. The bronze doors were extremely heavy, and Zhao Fu tried to push them open but found that he couldn't. Only after using his Great Kin Seal's power was he able to slightly open them. 536 Trash Nation armament. The bronze doors were simply too heavy. With the City Lord Seal's power, Zhao Fu would be able to easily move a massive boulder that weighed many tons. He had never expected opening this bronze door to be so difficult. Zhao Fu had no choice but to erupt out with all of his City Lord Seal's power. Within Zhao Fu's body, the Great Kin Seal clinged, giving off a large amount of black light that seeped out of Zhao Fu's body as a terrifying power burst forth from his body. With this power, Zhao Fu placed his hands against the bronze doors and gritted his teeth as he pushed forward with all of his might. The bronze door slowly moved, giving off a low rumbling as it finally opened a sliver. Immediately, a gust of incredibly cold air rushed out. This cold air caused the bodies of everyone to freeze, making them feel as if they had fallen into an icy cavern. They felt incredibly nervous and continuously sweated, instinctively feeling a sense of danger. Zhao Fu's expression became serious as he said to Li Wen and the others, "You should all leave first, this isn't something you can get involved in. Tell all of the other teams to leave the underground region as well." Li Wen could sense the danger behind the bronze doors and said, "Your Majesty, it's probably best that you don't go in. You'll be in a lot of danger, so let us go in and explore first." The soldiers looked at Zhao Fu earnestly, hoping that they could go in his place. After all, he was the ruler of Great Kin, and they could not allow anything to happen to him. However, Zhao Fu shook his head because they were too weak. If they went in, they would be instantly killed by whatever was inside and not be able to do anything. Moreover, players would not die a real death. This was the advantage that he had. Seeing that they had no way to convince Zhao Fu, Li Wen and the others could only leave, and they decided to report this matter to the other city lords and have them protect Zhao Fu. After they left, Zhao Fu once again looked at the bronze doors. Based on the extremely cold air from behind the bronze doors, Zhao Fu knew that whatever was behind them was incredibly dangerous. However, he knew that this could also be a fortuitous opportunity, as it was something from the Heaven Murder Empire. Even though it was dangerous, he could have a fortuitous encounter, allowing Great Kin to develop even faster. After making this decision, Zhao Fu continued to use all of his strength to open up the doors until they were about 30 centimeters apart. A massive amount of cold air streamed out, and the terrifying aura from within was enough to cause anyone's soul to tremble. Zhao Fu shuffled in sideways and saw a pitch-black passageway, but there was some light at the end. Zhao Fu carefully walked along this dark passageway before reaching a 1,000-meter-wide hall. This hall gave off a brilliant golden light, and it was as if its surface was covered with a layer of gold. There were also ornate pictures of scenery carved onto the walls and floor, looking quite beautiful. What shocked Zhao Fu even more was that he had discovered that there was a 10 or so meter long dragon lying down at the center of the hall. Its entire body was golden colored, and it gave off a golden light. It had a pair of sharp horns, golden wings, and 5 claws that gave off an icy, sharp light. The dragon gave off a majestic, elegant, powerful, mysterious aura, and it seemed incredibly dangerous. Zhao Fu recognized this dragon. The king remnant soul that Zhao Fu had obtained before had the image of this dragon, and he had never thought that he would see the actual thing. The dragon ahead was most likely the Heaven Murder Empire's Fate Dragon. From the system announcement of the king remnant soul, Zhao Fu knew that the skeleton that he had defeated was either a prince or princess, which was why defeating it had given him a king remnant soul. Fate dragons would be passed down with the bloodline, so anyone with the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial bloodline would possess such a fate dragon. Similarly, if Zhao Fu's bloodline was passed down, his descendants would also have Zhao Fu's black dragon. This had already been decided when Qin Fei had established the state of Qin. However, the dragon in front of him was not just an image, which made Zhao Fu feel quite surprised. This was because the Heaven Murder Empire had been destroyed for an incredibly long time, and it was impossible for the Fate Dragon to have survived for so long. As Zhao Fu was thinking to himself, the golden dragon suddenly opened its eyes, revealing its golden pupils and giving Zhao Fu a big shock. Bang! A massive sound rang out. As the golden dragon opened its eyes, a terrifying formless energy rushed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu reacted in time but was still sent flying. He crashed against a wall and coughed up a large amount of blood, dyeing the front of his clothes red. Zhao Fu looked quite shocked. He had simultaneously used his City Lord Seal, Nation Armament, and Clan Armament's power, but he had still been heavily injured by this dragon's casual attack. This golden dragon was simply too powerful. Right now, he had to unleash all of his power, or he would not be a match for the golden dragon. However, that golden dragon looked at Zhao Fu arrogantly and condescendingly. It said with a voice that was neither male nor female, "You think the trash nation armaments of a low-level world can defeat me?" Zhao Fu's eyes were cold as he wiped away the blood from this mouth and stood up. He then said, "You think you're so great? The Heaven Murder Empire was destroyed long ago. You." It seemed that Zhao Fu's words had poked its sore point, and the golden dragon looked quite furious as its body flashed with a golden light, and a heaven-destroying aura rushed towards Zhao Fu. Even space itself seemed to be unable to withstand this and started to distort. Facing this horrifying power, Zhao Fu did not dare to be careless, and he used all of his strength to activate his king's domain. A black barrier with dragon inscriptions appeared around Zhao Fu's body, blocking that terrifying pressure. The golden dragon looked at Zhao Fu with its golden eyes and stood up, releasing an even more intense pressure. Crack! Suddenly, a crisp cracking sound rang out, and Zhao Fu was startled to see that a crack had appeared in the king's domain. Zhao Fu's expression became quite unsightly, and he used even more of his nation armament and clan armament's power, allowing him to barely resist that strength. "I already said that the trash nation armaments from a low-level world like yours can't defeat me. I've destroyed countless ones in the past." As the golden dragon spoke, its pressure became more and more powerful, until it was 10 or so times greater than before. This massive pressure caused Zhao Fu's king's domain to be covered in cracks, and it looked like it would soon collapse. This made Zhao Fu feel quite shaken. Was he really going to die here? Even though he had used all of his powers, he was unable to even bear the other side's pressure. This golden dragon was simply too powerful. This meant that the Heaven Murder Empire's strength far exceeded what Zhao Fu could imagine. 537 dominate the world. However, Zhao Fu thought about it and remembered that if he died, he would just lose his cultivation and skills. His king's profession and bloodline were already bound to his soul, and he would not lose them. Therefore, he did not have to worry. Moreover, even though this underground region was near Great Kin, it could not threaten Great Kin because the Great Kin city now had the protection of the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon. No matter how powerful this golden dragon was, it was unlikely that it was more powerful than the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon. After all, the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon was one of the guardian beasts of this world, so it was most likely stronger than the golden dragon. Therefore, he did not have to worry about Great Kin's safety. Looking at his king's domain continuously cracking, Zhao Fu decided to go all out with this golden dragon. However, at that moment, a black mark appeared on the back of Zhao Fu's right hand that gave off a rainbow-colored light. Immediately, Zhao Fu felt a surge of power enter him, and he didn't feel anything facing that terrifying might anymore. That mark was the Earth Realm mark. Seeing the Earth Realm mark, the golden dragon's expression changed, and it hesitated before withdrawing its terrifying pressure and saying in surprise, "Boy, I never thought that you would be someone with a mandate of heaven fate." Seeing that the golden dragon had withdrawn its aura, Zhao Fu inwardly let out a sigh of relief but did not respond to the golden dragon's words. The golden dragon did not seem to mind and continued to look at Zhao Fu as it said, "How about the two of us work together? Don't worry. You'll obtain massive benefits, and if I wasn't in this predicament, I wouldn't want to work with a person from a low-level world." Zhao Fu did not even need to think about it before refusing. "Apologies, I'm not interested." This was because the golden dragon was far too dangerous, and Zhao Fu was unable to control it. Moreover, Zhao Fu did not want to partner with the Heaven Murder Empire, because he was worried about its enemies. If they could destroy an empire as powerful as the Heaven Murder Empire, that meant they would be incredibly monstrous. The final reason was that Zhao Fu could not tolerate how arrogant the golden dragon was. However, because of the information he had obtained from God Kerr, he knew that what the other had said was true. Regardless, Great Kin would not allow itself to be humiliated. Zhao Fu believed that one day, Great Kin would be able to surpass the Heaven Murder Empire. "Oh? Don't you want the things left behind by the Heaven Murder Empire? They'll be enough for you to dominate this world," the golden dragon said in a tempting tone, feeling quite surprised. However, Zhao Fu continued to resolutely refuse, saying, "No matter how good they are, I don't want to work with you." Even without those things, Great Kin will be able to dominate this world. You. Do you not believe that I'll butcher Great Kin? The golden dragon felt quite furious. It had already taken a step back, but this person still refused to work together with it. During the peak of the Heaven Murder Empire, it would not even look at a person like this, yet he had dared to refuse. Hearing this, Zhao Fu did not feel angry because he wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of the golden dragon. The Great Kin city had the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon defending it, so Zhao Fu felt quite confident and was not afraid of the golden dragon. You can try it if you want, Zhao Fu said with a hint of mockery. Hearing this, the golden dragon felt quite furious and exploded out with its sky-toppling pressure again as if it was about to rush to the surface and start a massacre. However, seeing Zhao Fu's cold smile, it immediately withdrew its aura and looked at Zhao Fu with its golden eyes. It then said, "Boy, I'm not going to fall for your trap." Zhao Fu felt a bit disappointed and lightly harumphed, ignoring the golden dragon, thinking about ways to leave. Even though he would not die a true death and would not lose his professions and bloodline, his equipment, 4 swords, and the king's crown would all fall here. With how powerful the golden dragon was, it would be almost impossible to retrieve them. Zhao Fu also didn't want to restart from stage 0 again either, so if he could escape, that would be best. He wondered if there were any restrictions in this space, otherwise, why would the golden dragon stay here instead of rampaging in the world? Moreover, with how powerful this golden dragon was, why would it suddenly want to work together with him? Thinking back to how the golden dragon had withdrawn its aura, Zhao Fu felt that something was off. However, the golden dragon once again said seriously, "You've most likely obtained the heaven and earth refining formation, right? Do you think they'll let you off? They control all sorts of heaven-defying formations, so do you really think that you can defeat them? What a joke. Once they find that the Heaven Murder Empire's remains are here, let alone Great Kin, your entire world will be massacred." Zhao Fu's expression became quite unsightly because Zhao Fu acknowledged everything that the golden dragon was saying. This was something that he had always been worried about. Seeing Zhao Fu's expression, the golden dragon inwardly laughed before saying, "Now, your only option is to work together with me, or else you should know the outcome." The golden dragon continued to look at Zhao Fu's changing expression and felt quite pleased. From how it saw things, working together with it was Zhao Fu's best option, as well as his only option. Right now, the person in front of him had to give in. Zhao Fu's blood-red eyes looked at the golden dragon, but he suddenly coldly harumphed. "Even if Great Kin is destroyed, would they let you off, a remnant of the Heaven Murder Empire? Worst comes to worst, we'll die together. Stop trying to act all high and mighty." Zhao Fu had already made a decision. He was not sure if the faction that had destroyed the Heaven Murder Empire still existed. After all, tens of thousands of years had passed. Anything could have happened over the course of history, and many powerful empires had been destroyed. Even though they were powerful, that didn't mean that there were not existences more powerful than them, or perhaps they had had a civil war. As such, there was not a need to worry so much. Moreover, Zhao Fu had heard from the Golden Dragon that the faction that had destroyed the Heaven Murder Empire controlled many different heaven-defying formations. This was quite shocking, as the Heaven and Earth Refining Formation was only one of the heaven-defying formations. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the Golden Dragon felt quite angry, but as it thought, its anger disappeared and its attitude became better. It no longer spoke in a condescending tone and started again, saying, "All right, I'll respect you and view you as an equal partner. Would you be willing to work together with me?" Seeing that its attitude had become much better, Zhao Fu felt satisfied and nodded. In actuality, Zhao Fu had no other choice because he was also worried that Great Kin might be destroyed. If he worked together with the Golden Dragon, he would at least obtain quite a lot of benefits. With how powerful the Heaven Murder Empire had been, even an ordinary treasure from it would be very useful to Great Kin. After all, they had not even established their empire yet and were still incredibly weak. They had no way to compare with the Heaven Murder Empire. Seeing Zhao Fu agree, the Golden Dragon let out a sigh of relief. Without Zhao Fu's help, it would not be able to accomplish much. Following this, Zhao Fu asked, "What do you need from me?" The Golden Dragon thought about it before replying, "I need you to find the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial family, and if you can, restore the Heaven Murder Empire. As for its enemies, you don't need to think about them for now. I won't force you to fight to the death with them." 538 Heaven Murder Empire. Zhao Fu had thought about this for a while. Finding the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial family was not a big deal, but restoring the Heaven Murder Empire would be incredibly dangerous. This was because the Heaven Murder Empire was simply too powerful, and Zhao Fu did not want to nurture an incredibly powerful enemy. After all, it was possible that the Heaven Murder Empire could turn against him, dragging Great Kin into danger. As such, Zhao Fu had to think about this carefully. However, Zhao Fu did not immediately refuse and instead asked the Golden Dragon, What material benefits can I get from this? This. Nothing for now. The Golden Dragon said after hesitating. Eh? Zhao Fu felt quite annoyed. There were no immediate benefits, yet the Golden Dragon wanted him to help it restore the Heaven Murder Empire. Did it think that he was an idiot? The Golden Dragon could tell what Zhao Fu was thinking, so it quickly said, I can help you get rid of all of your enemies for now. However, my power is limited, and I won't be able to use it too much. Also, I can tell you the various secret techniques of the Heaven Murder Empire. With how powerful the Heaven Murder Empire was, it had countless secret techniques, and all of them were incredibly powerful and will be quite useful to you. Hearing this, Zhao Fu inwardly cursed at the Golden Dragon. He had been scared stiff by its power before, but it turned out that its power was limited and could not be used much. No wonder it hadn't directly attacked and had instead used its pressure to weigh down on Zhao Fu. Do you really think that with just your strength and those measly benefits I'd be willing to task the risk to restore the Heaven Murder Empire? I can agree to finding the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial family, but I can't help you with restoring the Heaven Murder Empire. Not only is it too dangerous, but it's also incredibly difficult as well. Zhao Fu told the Golden Dragon his thoughts. Right now, he couldn't even restore the Great Qin Empire, let alone the Heaven Murder Empire. The Golden Dragon understood Zhao Fu's concerns, so it took a step back and said, I can give you the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial bloodline, which will make you one of the Heaven Murder Empire's legatees. Even though there isn't much here, outside of the legacy land, there are many things left behind from the Heaven Murder Empire. Also, even though I only have less than 1,000th of my power, with my current power, I can still be considered a terrifying existence within the legacy land. I don't need you to restore the Heaven Murder Empire right now, but you must look for the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial family and make them your official bloodline. This made Zhao Fu feel quite troubled. If he restored Great Qin, the official bloodline should be the Ying family bloodline. Even though Zhao Fu only used to be part of the collateral family, he was still part of the Ying family. This was something that could not be changed. After all, Great Qin only belonged to the Ying family. Now that the Golden Dragon was telling him to obtain the Heaven Murder Empire imperial bloodline and become one of its legatees, that meant that his fate would be bound tightly to the Heaven Murder Empire. They would either survive together or die together. Moreover, Zhao Fu didn't feel that making the Heaven Murder Empire the official imperial bloodline would be too good. That would be like fusing Great Qin and the Heaven Murder Empire. However, if he refused, he would definitely die here. The Golden Dragon was strong enough to do this. Zhao Fu very much wanted the things from the Heaven Murder Empire, as they would be quite important for Great Qin. At the very least, they would be able to help Great Qin obtain a solid footing once the Heaven Awakened world devoured the real world. If he was an ordinary player and had the opportunity to obtain the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial bloodline, he would focus on helping the Heaven Murder Empire develop. However, he had long since been Great Qin's legatee, so Zhao Fu felt a bit hesitant. However, Zhao Fu thought about it. Once the Golden Dragon found a rightful owner, it would definitely develop an extremely terrifying person, and because he had no power to stop this, Zhao Fu decided that he might as well agree. The Golden Dragon let out a breath of relief and smiled as it said, Don't worry. The benefits you'll obtain will be far greater than anything you can imagine. Zhao Fu nodded. He had no other choice, as the pressure on him was too great. Not only did he have to face the various dynasty legatees, but there were also countless players and the disaster after the Heaven Awakened world devoured the real world. Because of the information he had obtained from God Kerr, Zhao Fu knew how dangerous it would be in the future. Countless races would go extinct, and even if people didn't die, many of them would only live on as slaves. Zhao Fu had no intention of saving the world, but he wanted to at least guarantee Great Qin's safety. In that case, stand in front of me, spread your hands, and accept the bloodline I'm about to give you. The Golden Dragon said. Zhao Fu nodded and came in front of the Golden Dragon, spreading his hands out. The Golden Dragon's expression became serious as it lightly beat the golden wings on its back, causing a faint breeze to sweep out. The Golden Dragon's body left the ground, after which its body gave off a brilliant golden light, and a powerful aura emanated out from it. The Golden Dragon's golden eyes looked at Zhao Fu before it turned into a ball of golden light and rushed into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu instantly felt an unimaginable power shoot into his body. The golden light completely passed through his body, causing his body to shoot out countless rays of golden light. Og! Zhao Fu felt as if something was going to explode out of his body, causing him to howl in pain. Boom! A shocking explosion rang out as a golden pillar of light rushed into the sky as if it was going to tear the sky apart, and it seemed to shake the entire world. Immediately, clouds swirled as the sun dimmed. The legatees all over the world felt their fate dragons reluctantly roar within them, and these roars shook the entire world. The countless legatees felt quite shocked and had no idea what was going on and why their fate dragons would uncontrollably roar. They suddenly sensed something and quickly rushed out of the room, looking towards the golden pillar of light connecting the heavens and the earth. CG, the Wushan, Ji Shenming, the Roman legatee, the Egyptian legatee, the Arab legatee. All of their expressions were quite unsightly because they were yet again looking in that familiar direction. They weren't sure what Great Kin, which had been peaceful for a while, had done this time to make their fate dragons so unsettled. After being told by Li Wen, Great Kin's city lords all hurried over to the doors, but the sudden burst of the golden pillar of light sent out a shockwave that knocked them back like leaves. It was not just them. Everything within 100 kilometers of the golden pillar of light, whether they were boulders, trees, or mountains, were instantly obliterated, flattening the ground. The city lords all looked quite shocked, not sure what had happened. With their power, they were surprisingly unable to go close at all. Hearing the roars of the many dragons, countless people looked incredibly shocked. The sky started to be dyed golden, and golden rays of light fell on the ground, as golden feathers also drifted down from the sky. The scene looked incredibly holy, majestic, and beautiful. At the same time, a heaven-toppling might suddenly descended, causing cracks to appear in the sky. The ground continuously trembled as a berserk gale erupted out, making it seem as if the end of the world had come. 539 Supreme Power Roar. At that moment, a massive dragon's roar pierced the sky, bringing with it immense force as it suppressed the roars of the countless other dragons. That massive dragon's roar turned into a corporeal shockwave that blasted outwards, obliterating everything in its path. Kai. Countless fate dragons wailed, and anyone with a great amount of fate, such as Heavenly Sword City's owner, Gu Qinying, and the other ordinary people who had obtained gains during the Divine Fish Festival, felt a formless energy blast them, causing them to fly backward and cough up a mouthful of blood. That dragon's cry was so terrifying that it seemed to cause the heavens and the earth to go dim, and everything trembled before it. In the northern side, the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon suddenly opened its eyes. The guardian beast in the Eastern Ocean region, the one in the Western Flames region, and the one in the Southern Forest region also opened their eyes. In fact, even outside the Legacy Land, some people seemed to hear this dragon's cry, and they also looked over. A golden dragon had appeared in the sky and was spiraling around. It looked like the golden dragon that had been in front of Zhaofu, with a pair of golden wings, sharp horns, and golden eyes, giving off a majestic, mysterious aura. The golden dragon flew in the sky, and its eyes were incredibly sharp. It was as if it could see the entire world. It beat its wings, giving off an intense golden light as an intense wind rippled out, causing heaven and earth fate to rapidly gather at a rate that could be seen with one's eyes. The countless legatees, as well as people with a great amount of fate, were grabbed into the air by formless hands. They looked incredibly shocked, as they could feel their fate being forcibly stolen. Not just them, but in every region all over the world, fate continuously streamed out and floated towards Great Kin. He's forcibly stealing the fate of the heavens and earth from people and countless creatures. Countless espers and ability users looked completely dumbfounded, and they couldn't help but tremble. Could Great Kin really do such a thing? It seemed impossible. Even gods would not be able to steal fate like this. This was a method that could harm others and disrupt the flow of fate in the world, giving it to oneself and providing one with supreme power. Moreover, even though the golden pillar of light came from the direction of Great Kin, it did not have the aura of Great Kin but a new aura that was filled with death, slaughter, and destruction. The sect masters of the school of Taoism, the school of Confucianism, the Buddhist sect, the Vatican, and the Islam sect all looked quite worried. This aura did not come from Great Kin and perhaps did not even belong to this world. It came from an unknown place. Hurry up and stop it. Cries sounded out as countless people started to move. Seeing the golden pillar of light, Xianru's expression became quite unsightly. She didn't know what was happening, but she hoped that His Majesty would be fine. Following this, countless traces of fate madly gathered, causing the golden dragon's light to become more and more intense to the point that many people couldn't open their eyes fully. It was as if a golden sun had appeared in the sky, giving off a boundless golden light, and the terrifying aura was also incredibly frightening. Within the golden pillar of light, Zhaofu's body started to go through changes. The golden light continuously entered Zhaofu's body, causing his flesh and bones to start to go through a metamorphosis. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions rang out in the sky as terrifying auras burst forth and rocked the entire world. Massive chains that gave off different colored light shot out from all over the heaven-awakened world, bringing with them terrifying power as they shot towards the golden dragon. The countless factions tried to use the same method that they had used when sealing the Chaos Imperial Star, wanting to top this unknown fate dragon from devouring more fate. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions once again sounded out as the various dynasty legatees disregarded the cost and fate as they unleashed their nation armaments, causing massive powers to shoot to the sky. If they did not use their nation armaments, it was possible that all of their fate would be stolen regardless. The countless chains brought with them an immense sealing power, wrapping around the golden dragon, and the nation armaments also burst forth with might and tried to suppress the golden dragon's power. So many different powers simultaneously activating caused the entire Heaven Awakened world to suddenly dim, and wild gales buffeted the world. The ground started to crack as a terrifying aura spread out everywhere. Countless wild beasts ran in all directions as if they were escaping from a calamity. Blood leaked out of the mouths of all of the sect masters as they did their best to stop this fate dragon from another world from stealing even more fate. The legatees also gritted their teeth and did their best to suppress the golden dragon. The golden dragon in the sky was locked down by countless chains, and its power was also suppressed by the countless nation armaments, causing its aura to continuously weaken. The fate it was gathering decreasing. Seeing this, everyone let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that they had successfully suppressed that fate dragon. They could not allow their world's fate to be stolen by another world, or the entire world would suffer heavy losses. But why had a fate dragon from another world appeared here, and why had it appeared right where Greatkin was? Just what sort of nation could have a fate dragon with such monstrous power? None of them knew the answers to these questions, and right now, they only wanted to seal this fate dragon and stop it from harming the world. Outside the legacy land, a few people seriously looked at the barrier shining with rainbow lights, and feeling those terrifying ripples, they felt quite shocked. Just what had happened to cause such a thing? What sort of terrifying shockwaves could pass through the heaven domain boundary? However, without even thinking about it, they knew that unless it was something incredibly terrifying, there would not be such immense shockwaves, making them all feel quite shocked. Feeling those shockwaves, they couldn't help but reconsider their original plans. Within the Heaven Awakened world, countless people were affected by the shockwaves and felt incredibly terrified, but they were unable to defend against that power at all. Countless city lords stood in the air, looking towards Greatkin. The chains in the sky made them understand how terrifying this matter was, and if it wasn't for the other worlders stopping it, they would not have been able to stop the flow of fate at all. The golden light around the golden dragon's body became fainter and fainter, and that terrifying aura also gradually decreased, while the fate in the world also settled down. All of Greatkin's generals and countless residents let out a breath of relief. They didn't know what was going on and didn't think that it had to do with Jiaofu. This was because the fate dragon gave off an aura from another world, which they could clearly sense. As such, they did not think that it had to do with His Majesty, and they hoped that the situation would be resolved as quickly as possible. The strength that the golden dragon had given off was simply too terrifying. Even the 10 or so wyverns in Greatkin were laying on the ground and trembling. Even though they were normally incredibly wild and bold, they looked like incredibly tame dogs lying on the ground. If even the powerful wyverns were like this, the humans were even more pronounced. Seeing this, the sect masters and legatees decided to retract their seals and nation armaments. A bunch of ants. Suddenly, an incredibly condescending, arrogant, and cold voice sounded out in their ears, making them feel greatly shocked. 540 go die. Even though the golden dragon was locked down by countless chains, its expression did not change in the slightest. It completely ignored the methods of this world and the nation armaments, as they were incredibly pitiful in front of it. Roar. The golden dragon powerfully roared as it suddenly spread its wings, causing a brilliant golden light to ripple out. The golden light tore across the sky, causing the countless chains to shatter, and the many nation armaments were blasted back. Countless people looked incredibly shocked. They had never expected to not stop this fate dragon at all despite having so many people and so many nation armaments. Just what sort of existence was this fate dragon for it to be so powerful? Boom. The golden dragon escaped from its chains, and the power it unleashed caused fate to gather even more madly, flowing like a river towards it. As the fate continued to gather, the golden dragon's golden light became more and more powerful, and within the golden pillar of light, Jiaofu's body seemed to become transparent. His flesh and bones were all giving off a golden light, making him seem like a golden glass statue. It's not enough. Since you all want to die, I'll start with you. The cold voice in the sky continued to sound out, making everyone's heart tremble. They all felt a massive weight on their bodies, and it was as if there were massive mountains weighing down on them. The atmosphere became incredibly oppressive. Og! The various sect masters' bodies were suddenly pierced by golden dragon claws, causing them to pitifully howl as blood flew everywhere. Their disciples were all greatly shocked, and tears streamed down their faces in grief and fury as they rushed up. However, the golden dragon ignored those disciples, and the golden dragon's claws, holding hearts that were still beating, disappeared, leaving behind the sect masters' corpses. The golden dragon's claws appeared around Jiaofu, who was hovering in midair in the underground space. The hearts in the dragon claws exploded, turning into bloody mist. The golden dragon then controlled the bloody mist to form a blood red formation, which had many runes. All of them were the Heaven Murder Empire's unique runes, and every one of them contained immense power. Within the formation, Zhaofu's body and soul absorbed the blood-red formation's power, causing some changes in his body. Seeing this, a trace of a smile appeared on the golden dragon's face, and it looked towards the countless legatees and said, "With your bloodlines, the heaven murder bloodline will become even more powerful, so you can all go die." The dragon claws once again appeared and spat at the countless legatees. Facing those claws and the power they emanated, all of the legatees felt immense fear. Boom. 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 Just as all of the legatees were about to be killed, 4 sky-toppling auras burst forth, causing the entire world to tremble, and it was as if the heavens and the earth could not withstand such might. The northern side was covered by an azure barrier, the south side was covered by a green barrier, the east side was covered by a white barrier, and the west side was covered by a fiery red barrier. The 4 different colored lights filled the entire world, and everyone felt their bodies relax as that terrifying pressure suddenly disappeared. All of the dragon claws were also blocked off by the various barriers. The golden dragon's expression changed, and it realized something. It knew far more than ordinary humans, and it had expected the guardian beasts to try to stop it. However, the golden dragon cried out in reluctance. Boom. However, a ray of light shot out from each of the 4 directions, each of them bringing with it an extremely destructive power. The rays of light were incredibly fast, tearing through the sky, and everything that they passed through was instantly annihilated. The 4 guardian beasts not only wanted to stop the golden dragon but also attack it. After all, something of the golden dragon's strength should not have appeared in the legacy land and could cause the world to be destroyed. Seeing those 4 rays of light shoot over, the golden dragon's expression became quite unsightly, and it flapped its wings as it released a massive golden energy barrier. Boom. The 4 rays of light smashed against the golden energy barrier, resulting in an almighty explosion. The shockwaves turned into gusts of wild wind, sweeping through the entire forest of horrors. The golden energy barrier started to crack, but the 4 rays of light's power had not disappeared yet. The golden dragon was quite surprised. With its current strength, it was indeed not a match for the guardian beasts. It would barely be able to defeat a single guardian beast, let alone 4 of them. Roar. The golden dragon was quite furious. If it was at the peak of its strength, it could have easily killed these guardian beasts, but it did not have that power now. Could it be that it was going to be killed by these 4 guardian beasts? The golden dragon felt quite unresigned and sent even more of its power into its energy barrier, trying to defend. However, it was still not enough. Bang! The golden energy barrier shattered, and the 4 rays of light suddenly broke through and continued towards the golden dragon. Just as the golden dragon was about to be hit, within the blood-red formation, Zhaofu suddenly opened his eyes and stretched out his right hand. The Earth Realm mark on the back of his right hand gave off a rainbow-colored light that shot into the golden dragon's body. The golden dragon's body trembled as it exploded out with a ray of rainbow-colored light that shot towards the 4 other rays of light, causing them to dissipate. The golden dragon let out a sigh of relief and said to Zhaofu, "Many thanks." Even though the 4 guardian beasts' strength was not enough to truly kill the golden dragon, they could heavily wound and weaken it, forcing it to go into a deep sleep. The golden dragon did not want this, so it felt quite grateful that Zhaofu had saved it. The 4 guardian beasts did not attack again, and the 4 barriers gradually disappeared. One of the reasons was because the golden dragon was no longer a fate dragon from another world, as Zhaofu had successfully inherited the heaven murder bloodline, so this golden dragon belonged to Great Kin from now on and was a part of this world. The other reason was that the golden dragon had become incredibly weak and would no longer have the power to destroy the entire world. Since it belonged to this world now and was not much of a threat, as neutral guardian beasts, they chose to stop. After all, this golden dragon belonging to this world was a good thing. As guardian beasts, they knew what would happen in the future, so if the golden dragon joined them, this world's strength would become much stronger. Just then, if the golden dragon had not tried to kill all of the legatees, they would not have stepped in. At that moment, a rune appeared in Zhaofu's soul. This rune gave off a dense blood-red light and a bloody stench, and it looked like the murder character. It also brought with it a pure killing undestructive aura. Zhaofu smiled as he said to the golden dragon, "I never thought that the heaven murder bloodline would be created like this." By now, Xianru and the others looked quite shocked, as they had never expected this matter to be related to His Majesty. As everyone reveled in shock, Zhaofu released his black dragon because the fusing was not complete yet. 541 Sovereign Bloodline Roar. A massive dragon's cry sounded out in all directions, causing everyone, who had thought that the matter was over, to once again feel greatly shocked. The dragon's cry was filled with domineeringness and might, and the aura that it gave off was one that they were familiar with. What's Great Kin doing now? No one could guess what Great Kin was thinking, but with what they knew about Great Kin, they knew that it wouldn't be good. However, that fate dragon from another world had attacked all legatees, so Great Kin's legatee had most likely been affected as well. Facing that terrifying power, they just wanted everything to settle down, but Great Kin had suddenly started something again. This made countless people feel quite angry, and they all cursed at Great Kin, saying that it was too arrogant. Even 10 Great Kins would be destroyed facing such might, and if it wanted to die, it better not drag in the rest of them. The countless legatees were scared stiff by the Golden Dragon, and if it wasn't for those unknown powers stopping it, all of them would have been killed. That sort of power struck fear deep within their bones. What they didn't know was that the Golden Dragon now belonged to Great Kin. Above Great Kin, the domineering unsavage black dragon shot out of Zhao Fu's body and spiraled around in the sky, giving off a massive aura. The black dragon looked at the Golden Dragon but did not seem hostile because they both belonged to Zhao Fu. Facing the black dragon's gaze, the Golden Dragon did not seem to mind and continued to hover in the sky. At that moment, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and summoned the Great Kin seal before lightly calling out, "We, as Great Kin's legatee, order Great Kin's fate together." After Zhao Fu spoke, countless traces of a black aura rose up from the ground in the forest of horrors and quickly gathered towards the sky. Within the Great Kin city, the city heart continuously trembled and gave off a large amount of fate that also gathered in the sky. Traces of a black aura also rose up from Great Kin's residence and floated in the sky. As fate continuously gathered, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and pushed it out towards the Golden Dragon. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a massive amount of Great Kin's fate flooded into the Golden Dragon's body. The Golden Dragon quickly devoured the countless traces of fate, because it had truly become Great Kin's fate dragon. Roar! As the countless traces of Great Kin's fate entered its body, the Golden Dragon felt an immense power entering it and gave off a cry that shook the heavens. A black pillar of light rushed up into the sky, causing dark clouds to quickly gather, forming a massive vortex that gave off a shocking pressure. Damn it! Great Kin's doing something again. Feeling the disturbances in their fate dragons, as well as the terrifying shockwaves from afar, the countless legatees felt quite furious. Great Kin was a scourge. Even though many sect masters had died, there were still countless espers and ability users. They were different from the legatees, as they could already sense the changes in the Golden Dragon. They all looked incredibly dumbfounded and terrified, as that fate dragon from another world had turned into a fate dragon of Great Kin. Within the massive black pillar of light, the Golden Dragon seemed to go through changes. Its golden eyes now became pure black. At that moment, Zhao Fu stretched out his other hand and pointed it at the black dragon. The rune in his soul gave off a mighty power as a golden light shot out of Zhao Fu's hand and flew at the black dragon. After being hit by the golden light, the black dragon also felt an immense power explode out from within it. Boom! Another explosion sounded out as a pillar of golden light also rushed to the sky and caused even more dark clouds to gather, forming another gigantic vortex. The two massive pillars of light stood between the heavens and the earth, and two vortexes of dark clouds spun in the sky, becoming larger and larger. The aura of suppression that they gave off also became more and more powerful, and a wild gale blew in all directions, lifting many rocks and trees into the sky. The massive shockwaves gathered even more dark clouds, and soon, the dark clouds covered the entire heaven-awakened world as bolts of lightning started to descend and rain started to pour. At that moment, everyone realized that the incident with the Golden Dragon had been caused by Great Kin, as the Golden Dragon now belonged to Great Kin. Now that Great Kin had fused such a powerful fate dragon to Great Kin, many people's legs gave way, and they crashed to the ground. The countless fate dragons did not even dare to roar and could only whimper. The faces of countless espers and ability users became pale. It was now confirmed that the Golden Dragon was linked to Great Kin, and if that monstrous fate dragon joined Great Kin would go through incredible changes, and its supreme position would be unshakable. Seeing this, Xianru and the others realized that His Majesty had obtained a fortuitous encounter. Within the golden pillar of light, the black dragon also started to go through changes as its black eyes became a pure golden color. The two pillars of light slowly weakened, and the two vortexes also gradually became smaller. After a while, the abnormal signs all disappeared, and the heavens and the earth became peaceful again. By now, the Golden Dragon had completely fused with Great Kin. The Golden Dragon and Black Dragon did not change too much, it was just their eyes that had changed color. The Golden Dragon's eyes became black while the Black Dragon's eyes became golden. This had consumed a lot of Great Kin's fate, but Zhao Fu felt that it was worth it. Now that the Golden Dragon had joined them, Great Kin's fate had become much purer, and its foundation had become much more solid as well. Zhao Fu waved his arms, and the Golden Dragon and Black Dragon turned into two rays of light and entered Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu had never thought that the Heaven Murder bloodline would be something that would become more powerful using the sacrifices of countless traces of fate. The Golden Dragon had given Zhao Fu the purest trace of the bloodline and then used a massive amount of fate to cause the bloodline's power to continuously become stronger. Now, with the purity of Zhao Fu's Heaven Murder bloodline, he could be considered a member of the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial family. Even though Zhao Fu also had Great Qin's bloodline, neither of the bloodlines were affected and were both incredibly pure. However, Zhao Fu's heart was still on Great Qin's side. Even though he had two bloodlines, he was born with Great Qin's bloodline, while he had gained the Heaven Murder Empire bloodline with a technique. Because of this, he did not identify with it as much. It was also worth mentioning that Zhao Fu's bloodline level was now level 16, which meant that he now had a sovereign bloodline. Before, Zhao Fu's bloodline had only been a level 12 royal bloodline, and now that he had obtained the Heaven Murder bloodline, his bloodline had skipped the Imperial bloodline and reached the terrifying sovereign bloodline level. The Heaven Murder bloodline was not something that could be easily obtained, and the Golden Dragon had expended a lot of its strength to forcibly steal fate from countless creatures to create and develop the bloodline. This showed just how rare sovereign bloodlines were. 542 Destroy Great Qin's sovereign bloodlines were normally something that could only be obtained after establishing an empire, and they were something that ordinary kings could not obtain. This showed just how difficult it was to obtain a sovereign bloodline. Of course, ordinary royal bloodlines were far inferior to sovereign bloodlines, and now that Zhao Fu had a sovereign bloodline, many of his stats and attributes were greatly increased. However, Zhao Fu did not feel too happy as the Golden Dragon had said that the lowest bloodline of the Heaven Murder Empire's imperial clan was a sovereign bloodline. Zhao Fu could not even imagine just how powerful the Heaven Murder Empire was. Above sovereign bloodlines were origin bloodlines, and he had no idea what was above origin bloodlines. After recalling the two fate dragons, Zhao Fu looked at Xianru and the others who had come over and flew towards them. Xianru and the generals smiled as they said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty, for encountering yet another fortuitous opportunity." Zhao Fu smiled. This was not a big matter, and he led everyone back to Great Qin. Great Qin's goal was still to clear the Forest of Horrors. This news quickly spread to the real world. The sect masters who had died all looked incredibly weakened, and hearing the reports from their disciples, they all sighed. They had not seen how the situation had ended before they were killed. They were worried that their world's fate would all be stolen. If that were the case, their world would be greatly weakened. Even though Great Qin was ruthless and bloodthirsty, it was still a human faction. As long as the fate was not lost to an external force, that would be fine. After many people heard that Great Qin had obtained such a powerful fate dragon, they once again shamelessly ran to the Ying family and tried to negotiate. They had all witnessed the Golden Dragon's power for themselves, and it was powerful enough to annihilate everything. This made Great Qin simply invincible. The Ying family chased away everyone who came and did not give them any face. Last time when Great Qin had suffered a slight setback, all of them had deserted it, and now, they had shamelessly run back. If Great Qin suffered another setback, they would most likely turn away from it again. On the other hand, those who had stayed behind last time felt incredibly joyful. They had bet everything on Great Qin, and now that Great Qin had accepted them, once they formally joined Great Qin and it became even more powerful, they would be in an even better position. The families who had sent their women to the Ying family felt incredibly happy. They had believed in Great Qin's potential, and those who had opposed Great Qin all suddenly disappeared. The other families who had women on the ancient beauty rankings all started to consider whether they should send their women to the Ying family. They knew that the Ying family would not accept ordinary women, but if they were on the ancient beauty rankings, perhaps the Ying family would accept them. After all, apparently Great Qin's legatee was very fond of beautiful women. His licentiousness was known all over the world. If Zhao Fu knew that this was what everyone thought of him, he would definitely feel quite wronged. Within a secretive room, Maizioyan stood in front of an extremely seductive-looking woman, who was, of course, the White Lotus Society's saintess. Looks like choosing to work together with Great Qin was the right decision. We can use Great Qin's power to take revenge on the other dynasties. You must hurry though and make Zhao Fu yours. He's Great Qin's legatee's representative and wields great power, so if he falls into our hands, the benefits will be unimaginable. The saintess said to Maizioyan while smiling enchantingly. Maizioyan also smiled and replied, "I understand, saintess. I'll do my best." Of course, only a minority of people were happy about this. The majority of people's expressions were quite unsightly. It was Great Qin time and time again, making them gnash their teeth in anger. Since Great Qin was their enemy, none of them wanted to see Great Qin continuously grow stronger. Great Qin was already immensely powerful, and now that it had obtained that golden dragon, how were they meant to keep living? The dynasties and factions felt that they could not continue to wait. If they kept waiting, who knew what Great Qin would do next? When that time came, they would be even more terrifying. As such, they made the decision to stop defending and instead start to continuously attack and cripple Great Qin. This meant having the players in the 4 regions around the Forest of Horrors start to attack Great Qin and surround it from all sides. However, even though that was the plan, they still had their worries. That golden dragon was simply too powerful, and it was able to obliterate everything before it. As such, they had to investigate this matter first. They couldn't allow their army to arrive and suddenly be instantly killed. Not only was that detrimental to their resources, it would be extremely shameful. Right now, in the surrounding regions, they had roughly 1 million players each. Because of their fear of Great Kin, many of them had not participated before and survived. Apart from those regions, most of the other regions had 500,000 or so players. Because of the disasters that Great Kin had caused, they had swept away many of their obstacles, especially the players who viewed money as important as their lives and madly attacked Great Kin. Great Kin now increased the speed at which it cleared the Forest of Horrors in order to complete the first step of restoring the empire. Afterward, they would attack other regions and take their second, then third, and even more steps to restoration. The various dynasty legatees also started to secretly investigate the foreign factions. They felt that they could no longer just sit by, as Great Kin now greatly threatened them. If they continued to allow Great Kin to develop, they would have no path before them. As such, all of the various factions all over the world started to contact China's dynasty legatees, wanting to work together with them to at least suppress, if not destroy, Great Kin. They had to slow it down so that it could not continue developing like this. This time, the various factions decided that whether it was in terms of people or resources, they would support it with everything they had. This made China's dynasty legatees incredibly happy. With their help, they would be able to create a massive obstacle for Great Kin. Even though many of them were from different countries, they had the same enemy. Now, it could be said that the Chinese dynasty legatees had all started to formally work with foreign factions to destroy Great Kin. With this kind of support, the dynasty legatees factions became incredibly monstrous, and this was especially in terms of their fame and power. It was almost as if Great Kin was against the entire world. However, some people suddenly asked, wasn't this Chinese people attacking Chinese people? They were not only having a civil war but also having other nations help them attack their own people. As Chinese people, shouldn't they be more united? Why did they have to ally with foreign factions to destroy a fellow Chinese faction? Regarding this, the countless Chinese factions only scoffed at those people. They did not care about those things anymore and only wanted to destroy Great Kin. Even if they had to work together with foreign factions, that was fine. 543 Evil Demon. As the elders of China, the ancient clans tried to convince the various dynasty legatees not to do this, as this would bring in foreign forces and harm China overall. Originally, the fighting between the dynasty legatees and Great Kin had already weakened China, and now that they were allying with foreign factions to attack Great Kin, this was simply too dishonest. They were simply helping outsiders attack their own people. Ordinarily, people would have called them traitors, as they were helping others to attack fellow Chinese people. However, they had long since stopped considering Great Kin one of them, as Great Kin had threatened them too greatly and was their greatest enemy. As such, they wanted to use any means to destroy it, whether or not it was a Chinese faction. Moreover, in order to stand on the side of righteousness and attract even more people, they rallied people by saying, "Get rid of the evil demon and restore China's righteousness." The evil demon was, of course, Great Kin. The various factions had twisted many of the stories about Great Kin to make it seem eviler and paint it as a vicious demon. Now that they had portrayed Great Kin to be an evil demon, their actions in allying with foreign factions to attack it could be considered to be just. The ancient clans continued to desperately try to persuade them otherwise. They wanted to maintain the status quo, and since the various dynasty legatees were so far away, it would be better for them to just keep developing their own factions. Why did they have to care about how Great Kin was doing? However, the dynasty legatees ignored the ancient clans because Great Kin's threat was not something that could be ignored simply because they were far away. Because of how great this threat was, they had to get rid of Great Kin. However, the dynasty legatees also gave Great Kin an option, as long as it handed over its clan armament, did not step out of the Forest of Horrors for 3 years, and allowed them to suppress its nation armament, they would trust Great Kin and no longer stand against it. However, the ancient clans knew that it would be impossible for Great Kin to agree to such terms. If it agreed, it would not be Great Kin anymore. If they really agreed, Great Kin would become weak while they would become much stronger. Who knew who would be destroying who when the time came? Seeing that they could not persuade the dynasty legatees, the ancient clans could only turn their gazes to Great Kin. However, when they thought of how domineering Great Kin was, they gave up on trying to persuade it as well. As such, they could only sigh and see how the situation progressed. The dynasty legatees and foreign factions fighting against Great Kin would only consume a large amount of resources. If they just used the ordinary people to attack, the actual factions would not suffer any losses, and with so many factions allied together, they had a massive amount of resources at their disposal. Even if they used a lot of resources, if they split it across the many factions, each of them would not expend much, so they did not care as long as they achieved their objective. With so many resources, they felt incredibly confident and started to plan. They didn't know just what that golden dragon was, and it seemed to be that some kind of unknown existence had attacked the golden dragon, causing everything to quieten down, after which the unknown existence had disappeared. They felt that the golden dragon most likely did not have much power left, or else the unknown existence would not have just stopped. Moreover, if they attacked and the golden dragon tried to stop them, would that unknown existence help them stop the golden dragon again? Without the golden dragon, they became much more confident. Before, the players of a single region could force Great Kin into retreating, so what about 4 regions? The result would be obvious. In the end, they finally made the decision to attack. Of course, they couldn't just enter the Forest of Horrors without any preparations because it was now the base of Great Kin. They didn't want things to go like last time, with them falling into Great Kin's countless traps and retreating pitifully. As such, they had to make sufficient preparations this time to defend against Great Kin's tricks. This required a large amount of money, and this was provided by the dynasty legatees. Right now, money did not matter much to them, they just wanted to destroy or heavily wound Great Kin. In the face of great benefits, the players in the 4 regions around the Forest of Horrors turned into ravenous wolves and had no fears. They were all incredibly excited and were eager to leap at Great Kin and bite it. Zhao Fu quickly heard about this, and his expression became serious. He discussed with his generals as to how to face this situation. Now, many players were gathering at the surrounding 4 regions, and there were roughly 10 million of them. It would be quite difficult to deal with them, especially since they would not die true deaths and had no fears. On the other hand, all of Zhao Fu's soldiers were real lives, and if they died, they would remain dead. They could not endlessly revive like the players. If they fought directly, no matter who won or lost, Great Kin would suffer great losses. If the Golden Dragon hadn't expended most of its power, it might have been able to instantly kill all of them. However, it was a pity that in order to give Zhao Fu the Heaven Murder bloodline, it had forcibly stolen the fate of countless creatures and used up most of its power. Many other factions quickly joined this alliance against Great Kin. Countless neutral factions watched on, and very few factions supported Great Kin. However, they were not able to help much. No one dared to jump to conclusions as to who would win this battle. Even though it seemed like the dynasty legatees held an overwhelming advantage, they were facing Great Kin. Even though they had many people and had made all sorts of preparations, Great Kin had unfathomable potential, so the conclusion was quite unpredictable. The 100 schools of thought and the various sects felt quite complicated towards Great Kin. Sometimes, they were forced to act against Great Kin, but they wanted to remain neutral and not offend anyone. It could be said that their sect masters had been killed by Zhao Fu, but after knowing that the Golden Dragon belonged to Great Kin, they would not attack. Back then, they had thought that someone from another world was trying to steal their world's fate, so they had all acted. However, they had been killed by that Golden Dragon and died quite pitifully. However, even though all of the sect's disciples were quite furious, their sect masters told them not to be too angry. On one hand, they had offended Great Kin many times, so this was part of their compensation to Great Kin. On the other hand, if Great Kin really could restore its nation, they hoped that their disciples could go serve Great Kin and achieve their aspirations. After all, Great Kin was currently the faction with the most potential, and having tense relations with it would not be good. Flower Moon also discussed this matter. In actuality, they had long since wanted to work together with Great Kin, but because Great Kin had captured one of their people and refused to release her, this had not happened, and they had remained neutral. The atmosphere in the Forest of Horrors became quite oppressive, and the various dynasty legatees prepared to launch their attacks. However, by now, the temperature had fallen to under -10 degrees Celsius, and many streams and lakes had been frozen, as snowflakes fell from the sky. By now, it was late winter, and even those who wore thick coats felt quite cold. Whenever it snowed, it would snow for at least 3 days, and the entire heaven-awakened world seemed to turn into a world of whiteness. The snow was usually at least 1.2 meters deep, and some places even had layers of snow that were 3 or 4 meters deep. This forced the dynasty legatees to put a pause on their operations, and it also forced Great Kin to stop clearing out the Forest of Horrors. At the same time, a new festival arrived. 544 General Fate Zhao Fu had never expected such an event to come so quietly. This festival was the New Year Festival. It was quite a grand festival, as it said farewell to the previous year and welcomed in the new year. New Year usually meant that families got together, and everybody would be celebrating and filled with happiness. The arrival of the new year caused the heaven-awakened world to temporarily sink into peace and caused all of the battles to temporarily stop. Now, even if people didn't want to rest and wanted to fight, because of the weather, it would be incredibly difficult for an army to move about. Not only was there an incredibly thick layer of snow, but it was also extremely cold. At the same time, Any factions that attacked during this time were given a Grinch status that not only weakened their stats but also made them much more susceptible to getting sick. This was the first time that a festival had banned fighting, but this could be understood, as it was the new year. It was time for some rest from all of the fighting. As such, this New Year festival was not a festival for fighting and killing. In fact, one could receive rewards just by staying at home, and it was something that everyone could get rewards at. It was definitely the best festival out of all of the festivals. No one was clear as to just how this festival would work, but it was a collective event that required people to work together, and it was possible to trade rewards. Indigenous residents of the same village, town, or city could work together, but if people belonged to the same faction, even if they were in different places, they could still work together. The New Year festival would begin at 12 a.m., so Zhaofu ordered his people to start preparing while he went to have a look at the exchange stone steel. Even though the system main cities had been conquered by Great Kin, they still spawned exchange stone steels. This made Zhaofu quite relieved, as he would not have to go to another region to exchange for rewards. The 10,000 Flower Festival's focus had been weapons, the Ghost Festival's focus had been professions, the Divine Fish Festival's focus had been city creation stones, the Disaster Festival's focus had been medicinal pills, and the New Year Festival's focus was generals. The rewards were split into two categories, summoning generals and general fate. Generals could be summoned by exchanging for general medallions. They could summon both ordinary general as well as historical generals, but they were not ordinary historical generals. Almost every historical general belonged to a legatee, and because they were only loyal to their rulers, how could they pledge their loyalty to just anyone? As such, these historical generals were not historical generals from Earth's history but from a parallel world. Most of their appearances were different, and they had different names. Some were even different genders. However, they had all experienced similar things and were of similar strength and skill to their counterparts. There was also a ranking for the top 10 historical generals. Number 1, Sun Hanxian, counterpart to Sun Wu, gender, female, the military saint of her parallel world, the master of the School of Military, and the originator of Eastern military learning. Number 2, Wu Ziyu, counterpart to Wu Qi, gender, male, a famous military strategist, politician, revolutionist, and representative of the School of Military in his parallel world. He was proficient in the learnings of the School of Military, School of Confucianism, and School of Legalism. Number 3, Beizi, counterpart to Beiqi, gender, female, the leader of the 4 great generals of the Warring States period. She participated in countless battles and was victorious in almost all of them, but she was forced to commit suicide in the end. Number 4, Han Changxin, counterpart to Han Xin, gender, male, one of the 3 great generals of the Han dynasty in the parallel world. He was a god of military strategy but was wrongfully executed. Number 5, Wang Zhang, counterpart to Wang Jian, gender, male, one of the 4 great generals of the Warring States period. He was one of the greatest contributors to the state of Qin uniting the other 6 states. Number 6, Wei Qing, counterpart to Wei Qing, gender, female, one of the 3 cavalry geniuses of the ancient world in the parallel world. She was one of the famous generals from the Western Han dynasty. She was often victorious and was one of the greatest contributors when defeating the Xiongnu people. Number 7, Huo Lingsu, counterpart to Huoqing, gender, female, a famous general of the Western Han dynasty. She was the niece of General Wei Qing but died at an early age. Number 8, Li Shen, the counterpart to Li Jing, gender, male, the top general of the Tang dynasty in the parallel world. He made many meritorious contributions to the establishment of the Tang dynasty and indirectly caused the falls of the Arabic and Roman empires. Number 9, Li Mu, counterpart to Li Mu, gender, male, one of the 4 great generals of the Warring States period. He was a famous general of the state of Zhao and fought in countless battles. He died at the hands of the state of Zhao. Number 10, Zhu Liui, counterpart to Zhu Die, gender, female, the commander-in-chief of the Ming dynasty. Even though she was a peasant, she turned out to be a military genius. Of the top 10 generals, 5 of them were from the Warring States period, and 2 of them were counterparts of Great Qin's historical generals. Even though the Warring States period had been incredibly chaotic, it had developed many great generals. The Han dynasty also had 2 counterparts to their historical generals, while other dynasties at most only had 1 counterpart to their historical generals or none at all. There was an even split of men and women between the historical generals, which Zhao Fu was quite surprised about. He was curious what the female counterpart of Beiqi would be like. These 10 generals all had general stars and great general fate, so everyone would want to obtain them. After all, they were all just as capable as their counterparts, and they had to be summoned. There was also general fate, which could be purchased and given to a general, giving them a general star. Some general stars, such as the 13 general stars, would create abnormal signs when they appeared. Only people born with them would have them, and such people all had a great amount of fate. However, heavenly spirit general stars and earthly fiend general stars were different. They were not general stars that people were born with but ones obtained through hard work later on. Only by continuously fighting, causing their general fate to continuously become purer, would they be able to cause a general star to appear. That was how some historical generals were able to obtain general stars. Right now, many of the newer generals who had joined Zhaofu, such as Zhongdu and Zhao Jian, did not have general stars. Only by continuously fighting would they be able to awaken their own general stars. General fate was split into Great General Fate, Heavenly Spirit General Fate, and Earthly Fiend General Fate. Using these fates, they would be able to help their generals awaken general stars, and they would not be any weaker than historical generals. The general fates were more so for rising factions and large families that could not summon historical generals, and the general fates would close the gap between them and the legatees. The general medallions were more so for the large nation and dynasty factions, as only those who controlled cities could exchange for them. The nation and dynasty factions had the most indigenous residents, so how could ordinary people compete with them? This event was a joyous and happy event, and every person and faction would receive some benefits. 545 New Year Dreamland Zhaofu was interested in both the general medallions and general fate. With general medallions he would be able to summon different historical generals, and of course, the more historical generals the better. With general fates, he would be able to give them to people who weren't historical generals and help them awaken general stars earlier. However, even though Zhaofu wanted both types, all of them were quite expensive. He would not be able to purchase everything that he wanted. Time gradually passed, and even though there were not any system main cities that belonged to indigenous residents anymore, so they couldn't see how such system main cities celebrated, they could see how Great Kin celebrated. After all, there were many people from system main cities in the Great Kin city, and they knew how to prepare for the festival. Many Red Spring Festival couplets were stuck on either side of doors, with joyful pictures drawn on them. The streets were filled with red lanterns. The main color of this festival was the color red. It was no longer snowing, so the streets were filled of celebrating people. There were many stalls selling all sorts of celebratory gifts, and there were all sorts of snacks, such as candied fruits and glutinous rice balls. There were also all sorts of masks. The streets were incredibly lively, and everyone seemed quite happy. Laughter could be heard everywhere. Zhaofu stood on the top floor of a building and looked down with a trace of a smile on his face. The festivities were quite great in the Heaven Awakened world compared to in the real world. Your Majesty, it's still early. Do you want to go out and take a look? Everyone's celebrating right now. Xianru said as she smiled. Zhaofu shook his head as he said, I don't like these sorts of things, so it's best that I don't go. I'll make a few dishes for you then. Xianru said in a soft voice. Zhaofu nodded. All preparations had been made by others, so he did not have to worry. He just waited for 12 a.m. Following this, Xianru made a few dishes and brought up a pot of wine. Xianru's cooking was something that no one could ever get sick of, and Zhaofu ate the food while Xianru smiled and chatted with him. Soon, it was 12 a.m., and Zhaofu stood on the balcony of the building and looked up at the sky. Heaven and earth fate once again began to swirl and gather, forming colorful balls of light. Bang, bang, bang. Massive explosions sounded out as the colorful balls of light exploded into countless different colored motes of light, floating in the sky like fireworks and looking incredibly beautiful. It was not just Zhaofu. Everyone in the Heaven Awakened world looked up at the sky, watching these beautiful fireworks. Lovers held hands and leaned against each other, enjoying this magnificent scene. The countless motes of light in the sky lightly floated down, as red pouches, which were as big as a palm and had a blessing character embroidered on them, appeared in front of everyone. This was a New Year's gift, and everyone received one. This was why this festival was beneficial to everyone and enjoyed by all. Even without doing anything, they would receive rewards, so who wouldn't like this festival? A blessing pouch also appeared in front of Zhaofu, and he did not hesitate to reach out and expectantly open it. A white ray of light shot out from the pouch as a few copper coins appeared in his hand. My luck's not that great, it's just a few copper coins. Zhaofu couldn't help but smile and shake his head, but he still put the copper coins away. There were all sorts of New Year's presents. At the very least, people would obtain a few copper coins, but those with better luck would obtain equipment or skills. Those with very good luck could obtain dark gold rank items, and there were even epic rank items. This was only the prelude to the New Year festival, and what came next was the true beginning of the New Year festival. The New Year festival was split into day and night events, and each of them had different ways of obtaining New Year points, which were used to exchange for rewards. It was currently night time, so Zhaofu decided to go to sleep. Indeed, he would not be doing anything except going to his bed to sleep. Many people thought that sleeping at such a time was silly. Why would people sleep instead of getting New Year points? That was simply a waste of time. However, in actuality, sleeping meant participating in the night event, as once people slept, their consciousnesses would be taken to a New Year dreamland. The New Year dreamland was something that only appeared during the New Year festival. It would begin at 8 p.m. each night, and anyone who slept could enter it. The dreamland closed at 8 a.m. in the morning, and everyone would be forced out. During those 12 hours, not only would one be able to comfortably lay in their bed and sleep, but one's consciousness would also be able to participate in the event. This allowed one to both rest and participate. That was the nighttime event of the New Year festival, and it was incredibly suited to lazy people. They would be able to obtain rewards just by lying there. Moreover, the New Year dreamland was not a separate dreamland for everyone but a collective one. Everyone went to the same dreamland. After entering the New Year dreamland, people would not be able to use any skills or abilities, and legatees would not even be able to use their nation armaments or clan armaments. They would only be able to rely on their own abilities. Zhao Fu was not sure what would be inside the New Year dreamland, but he felt quite excited about it. After returning to his room, Zhao Fu saw a few female attendants wearing thin clothing lying within his bed. Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, the female attendants started to get up. Zhao Fu realized what was happening and decided to allow them to continue remaining within the bed. They were the Xianbai women that the Xianbai elders had given to him, and they looked quite pretty. They wanted them to serve Zhao Fu to get the Xianbai people better treatment. They were here to warm Zhao Fu's bed, as it was quite cold and beds would normally feel quite icy whenever people got into them. If it was just a single person, it would take them a while to warm up his bed. As such, many rich people had people warm up their beds for them, and this was a common practice since a long time ago. Zhao Fu very rarely slept lying down, as he usually slept cross-legged as he cultivated, so he didn't need them to warm his bed. However, because today was the beginning of a special event that required him to sleep, the female attendants decided to help Zhao Fu warm his bed so that he could fall asleep faster and more comfortably. Seeing them, Zhao Fu felt a trace of warmth in his heart, and seeing their thin clothing, he did not ask them to get up so that they wouldn't feel cold. After all, the bed was quite big, and it was no problem for a few people to sleep in it. Seeing that Zhao Fu had allowed them to remain within the bed, the female attendants blushed and looked on as Zhao Fu took off his outer clothes. Their hearts started to beat faster, and afterward, Zhao Fu lifted up the blanket and got in, causing their faces to become bright red and for their hearts to rapidly thump. Zhao Fu did not mind them, and after entering the warm bed, he let out a comfortable sigh before closing his eyes and entering the New Year dreamland. 546 Nyan. After entering the New Year dreamland, all Zhao Fu saw was a hazy whiteness, and he could not see anything properly. Afterward, his vision started to become clearer, and he found that he was within a boundless white space. His body was hovering in the air, and what made him feel even more surprised was that he had become a little beast. The little beast looked quite like a little cat and was about as big. However, it also looked a bit like a Kylan, as it had a pair of big eyes and a furry body. It did not look scary at all. Instead, it looked a bit cute. There were other little beasts around him, and they all looked about the same except for the fact that they all had a black mark on their heads. These black marks were one of the characters in their names, and it was quite difficult to tell what the characters were. However, they made it easier to distinguish between different little beasts. The black mark on Zhao Fu's head was a Twisted Fu character. Currently, Zhao Fu's body was being protected by a white light, and there were many little beasts that were floating in the air. Many of them were talking, making it sound quite raucous. Some little beasts were chasing after orbs, and after catching up to them, they would bite down, resulting in their bodies becoming a bit bigger. Some little beasts attacked other little beasts' bottoms, and those that were hit would release a white bubble that was absorbed by the little beast that had attacked, resulting in the attacker becoming a bit bigger. Zhao Fu soon received a system announcement, and he realized that he had turned into a Nyan beast. The white light protecting him was the protection for beginners and for the Nyans that had died. The white orbs were glutinous rice balls, which were split into different types, and they gave a different number of New Year points. Level 1 glutinous rice balls gave off white lights and would give 10 New Year points. Level 2 glutinous rice balls gave off blue lights and were worth 50 New Year points. Level 3 glutinous rice balls gave off silver lights and were worth 100 New Year points. The higher the level, the more New Year points they gave. Of course, the higher the level, the rarer they were. After eating a glutinous rice ball, one would obtain New Year points and become a bit bigger, and one's strength and speed would also be greatly increased. However, any New Year points obtained did not automatically belong to those who obtained them, because they could be attacked and the points could be stolen. This was what Zhao Fu was seeing again and again. The little beasts that were attacked would lose New Year points, and if they were successfully attacked 3 times while they had no New Year points, they would die and respawn elsewhere. Only after the New Year Dreamland was closed would everyone receive their New Year points. However, even if one finished with 0 points, as long as they participated, they would receive 100 New Year points at the end. Xiaofu was still under protection, and the other little beasts were not very interested in Xiaofu. Some went to fight for glutinous rice balls, while others attacked other little beasts, resulting in a chaotic scene. Xiaofu first went to a remote place so that he would not be attacked after his protection disappeared. At the same time, he started observing for an opportunity and moved his limbs, trying to become accustomed to this body. Xiaofu was in a protected state and would not receive attacks, but he could not attack anyone either and could not eat any glutinous rice balls. Time gradually passed, and the white light around Xiaofu's body became weaker and weaker. Just as it was about to disappear, Xiaofu started to act. A relatively bigger Nyan had just attacked a few other Nyans and obtained many New Year points. It was now being chased by a few other Nyans. Even though it was bigger and would not lose to any other Nyan in a one-on-one fight, it could not face the combined attacks of multiple Nyans, so it could only turn and run. That was the situation that all of the bigger Nyans found themselves in, unless they were powerful enough to make everyone fear them so that no one dared to face them. Other Nyans would group together and attack. Those that only ate glutinous rice balls would also be attacked, so the most important thing was to protect one's bottom and not allow it to be attacked by others. It was also important to attack others and eat a lot of glutinous rice balls. Fudge! Stop running! I'm going to whoop your ass! A vulgar youth shouted out at the Nyan that was running away. The Nyan running away gave off a middle-aged uncle's voice and said disdainfully, "Fight me one-on-one, you brat. Your uncle will make your ass explode. Enough trash talk. Head him together." Another Nyan yelled out in a youth's voice. The other Nyans did not say anything and continued to chase after the Uncle Nyan. Seeing that there were still a few Nyans chasing after him, the Uncle Nyan could only continue to run away. The Nyans chasing after him understood that he was faster and stronger, making it hard for them to catch up, so they planned to surround him. The Uncle Nyan knew what they wanted to do, so he couldn't allow them to do as they wished. He suddenly turned and started to turn in a different direction. The other Nyans cursed and changed directions as they continued to chase after him. The Uncle Nyan laughed, making the Nyans chasing after him feel quite furious. However, suddenly, a Nyan that still had a faint light around it rushed to the Uncle Nyan's side. The Uncle Nyan felt quite surprised. He knew the rules, that Nyans with a protective white light could not attack or be attacked. They could not dispel the white light by themselves and could only wait for the white light to disappear, so the Uncle Nyan felt quite surprised at this action. However, in the next second, the white light around Xiaofu's body disappeared, and the Uncle Nyan was greatly startled and quickly tried to dodge. However, it was too late. Xiaofu swiped out and clawed the Uncle Nyan's bottom, causing 5 bubbles to rise out of the Uncle Nyan's body and to be absorbed into Xiaofu's body. Immediately, Xiaofu received a system announcement that he had obtained 50 New Year points. After obtaining the 50 New Year points, Xiaofu's body became a bit bigger while the Uncle Nyan's body became a bit smaller. However, it was still bigger than ordinary Nyans, and he had at least 150 points in it still. Xiaofu ran towards the Nyans that had originally been chasing after the Uncle Nyan, and seeing this, the Uncle Nyan could only curse. Once he was surrounded, he would not be able to do anything, so he could only turn and run. Seeing that the Uncle Nyan had stopped chasing after him, he quickly ran to the side to prevent any of the other Nyans from chasing after him. The other Nyans looked at Xiaofu, who was slightly bigger, but decided to keep chasing after the Uncle Nyan, as he was clearly much bigger. Because of what Xiaofu had done, they had slightly caught up to the Uncle Nyan, and they would soon be able to chase him down. 547 New Year points. Xiaofu continued to run and disregarded what was happening behind him. He did not pay any attention as to whether the Uncle Nyan had been caught, as escaping was the most important thing. Xiaofu had always been more powerful than ordinary people, and now that he had become the same level as them, he was not quite used to this. However, he could not do anything about it. The New Year Dreamland blocked off all powers, so after entering this place, he had to abide by its rules. Now that his beginner protection had disappeared, he had to be careful because he could be attacked at any moment. Xiaofu decided to look for his next opportunity to act. Suddenly, a white light flashed 10 meters away from him as a white orb appeared. It was a level 1 glutinous rice ball. While there was no one else around, Xiaofu immediately ran over and ate the glutinous rice ball. System announcement. You have eaten a level 1 glutinous rice ball and obtained 10 New Year points. After eating the glutinous rice ball, Xiaofu's body became a tiny bit bigger, and because there was no one around this area, the next 3 level 1 glutinous rice balls that spawned were devoured by Xiaofu as well. With Xiaofu's current body, He was clearly bigger than most Nyans, so he would quickly become a target for other people. Just as Xiaofu was searching for more glutinous rice balls, a Nyan stealthily walked towards Xiaofu. In actuality, Xiaofu had long since noticed this Nyan. Even though he did not have his various powers, he was still incredibly wary and observant. This Nyan was only the size of ordinary Nyans and had not obtained any New Year points yet. Xiaofu continued to pretend that he had not discovered it and went on to look for glutinous rice balls. The other Nyan slowly drew near until it was only about 3 meters away. The other Nyan lowered its body and prepared to attack Xiaofu. However, at that moment, Xiaofu suddenly backflipped and landed behind the other Nyan, startling it and causing it to immediately start to run. However, Xiaofu quickly caught up to it, as he was stronger and faster. Seeing this, the other Nyan said in a young woman's voice that was quite pleasant to listen to, "Big brother, I was wrong, please spare me." It was a young woman, but Xiaofu showed no mercy. After all, she had tried to sneakily attack him first. He stretched out his claw and swiped at her bottom 3 times. System announcement. You have obtained 5 New Year points. System announcement. You have obtained 5 New Year points. System announcement. You have obtained 5 New Year points. It seemed that attacking newly spawned Nyan did not give many New Year points. Each hit was only worth 5 points for a total of 15 points, making Xiaofu feel quite disappointed. Your granny has remembered you. Don't let me see you again, or I'll. The young woman furiously cursed, her voice completely different to the voice when she had been begging for mercy. However, before she could finish her sentence, her body slowly disappeared, as she had been hit 3 times by Xiaofu. Hearing her, Xiaofu couldn't help but smile. Even though the young woman's words were quite vicious, it was unlikely that she could fulfill what she wanted. Xiaofu did not mind her words, as the New Year Dreamland was quite big and it would be almost impossible to see her again. After dying, she would revive at a different place. Following this, Xiaofu continued to search for glutinous rice balls. He also found his next target, which was a Nyan that was twice as big as ordinary Nyan. It was ferociously chasing after other Nyans. With its size, it was most likely a level 2 Nyan. Nyans were all split into different levels. The bigger a Nyan was, the higher its level. As Nyans leveled up, they would also obtain some skills. Xiaofu was not in a hurry to act, because with his speed and strength, it would be difficult for him to hit that Nyan, so he had to have a plan. At that moment, another Nyan that was about the same size as Xiaofu came over and said quietly in a youth's voice, "Friend, do you want to work together to hit him?" Hearing this, Xiaofu nodded. With his own strength, it would be quite difficult to hit that Nyan, so he decided to work together. Following this, the two of them talked before starting to move. The big Nyan continued to chase after a few other Nyans, and because it was much faster, it was able to easily catch up to them. It swiped out with a paw, hitting one of the Nyans before turning to another Nyan. Just as it was about to attack again, a black blur sped towards it. Xiaofu had quickly run over and swiped at the big Nyan's bottom. However, that Nyan had long since noticed Xiaofu, and it suddenly turned and swiped at him. The immense power from its swing sent Xiaofu flying, but luckily, he had not been hit on his bottom. Else, he would have lost some of his New Year points. Seeing Xiaofu fly away, the big Nyan coldly laughed and ran towards Xiaofu, wanting to finish him off. With Xiaofu's size, he probably had a lot of New Year points as well. However, at that moment, a claw swiped at his bottom. The youth working together with Xiaofu had appeared, and he had been waiting for a while. After being hit, the big Nyan's body continuously gave off bubbles, and his body became smaller. After absorbing the bubbles, the youth's body became a bit bigger, but the big Nyan's body was still much bigger. Facing the Nyan that had just sneak attacked it, the big Nyan furiously roared and started to chase after that Nyan. However, at that moment, another claw swiped at its bottom. Xiaofu had come back and attacked. Because they had discussed their plan beforehand, Xiaofu and the youth were able to work together well. After being hit by another sneak attack, the big Nyan furiously turned and wanted to attack Xiaofu. However, because it had lost so many New Year points and Xiaofu had absorbed so many, he was now bigger than it. Facing its attack, Xiaofu dodged and swiped towards it. After being hit on the bottom again, the other Nyan's body started to glow with a white light. It had been hit 3 times, so it would have to revive. The Nyan cursed before its body disappeared. Xiaofu had obtained 2/3 of that Nyan's New Year points, and he had become much bigger than ordinary Nyans. He was now only a bit smaller than the bigger Nyan had been. The Nyan that he had worked with ran over and laughed as he said, "Congratulations. You've become a level 2 Nyan now, right?" Xiaofu smiled and nodded because he had received a system announcement telling him that he had become a level 2 Nyan and received a boost to his speed. "Would you like to continue working together?" the youth said. Now that Xiaofu was a level 2 Nyan, With their teamwork last time, the youth trusted Zhao Fu, and if he continued to work together with Zhao Fu, he would be able to obtain even more benefits. Zhao Fu didn't hesitate to agree, as he would be able to benefit as well. Following this, the two of them attacked smaller Nyans and ate glutinous rice balls. Soon, the other Nyan had also become a level 2 Nyan. By now, Zhao Fu could not be bothered with attacking smaller Nyans, so he discussed with the youth about attacking another level 2 Nyan. 548 golden glutinous rice ball. The youth felt that this was a good idea. Since time was limited, neither of them wanted to waste their time attacking smaller Nyans, as they would not obtain many New Year points. They had to find other big Nyans to obtain even more New Year points. Soon, they found a target. It was a level 2 Nyan chasing after smaller Nyans, and while it was distracted, they snuck over. Because the level 2 Nyan was too focused on chasing the smaller Nyans, it did not notice them. By the time it finally saw them, it had already been surrounded by them. The level 2 Nyan warily looked at Zhao Fu and the youth and said in a hoarse voice, "Is it possible for the two of you let me off this time?" They had finally cornered their prey, so how could they let it off? The youth, who was standing behind the level 2 Nyan, attacked first and leaped forwards. The level 2 Nyan immediately hopped to the side, and Zhao Fu grasped this opportunity to charge and tackle the level 2 Nyan, sending it flying. By the time it landed, the youth had arrived by its side and swiped at its bottom, causing it to release bubbles and making it decrease in size. Zhao Fu also quickly ran over and hit its bottom, obtaining 150 New Year points. After being hit twice, the level 2 Nyan became quite small and was no match for Zhao Fu and the youth. Zhao Fu decided to give the last hit to the youth, as Zhao Fu had hit the previous level 2 Nyan twice, so he decided to let the youth have 2 hits this time. However, at that moment, a smaller Nyan suddenly rushed at Zhao Fu. It was one of the Nyans that had been chased by the level 2 Nyan, and it wanted to launch an ambush while Zhao Fu was distracted. Luckily, Zhao Fu was able to react in time. If it had been the youth, he most likely would have been hit, as his focus was completely on the level 2 Nyan. Zhao Fu immediately turned and sprang at the smaller Nyan. Because Zhao Fu's body was more than twice its size, his body completely covered it. "I failed again." The Nyan angrily yelled as it tried to reach around Zhao Fu to swipe at his bottom. Zhao Fu felt quite speechless. It was her again. No wonder she had tried to sneak attack him. Indeed, this Nyan was the young woman Zhao Fu had not spared. Even though Zhao Fu did not remember her appearance, he remembered her voice. By now, the youth had finished killing the level 2 Nyan, and ran over and asked curiously, "What's going on?" Zhao Fu laughed as he swiped at the bottom of the Nyan under him 3 times and said, "It's nothing, I just caught an idiot who was trying to launch a sneak attack." The youth did not feel too surprised and nodded. Because she had been hit by Zhao Fu 3 times again, the young woman's body gave off a white light. She felt incredibly humiliated that she had been killed by this person twice in a row so easily and yelled angrily, "Your grannies remembered you." "Make sure?" Before she could finish her sentence, her body disappeared. Zhao Fu smirked and completely disregarded her. Afterward, Zhao Fu and the youth killed a few more level 2 Nyans and ate a few glutinous rice balls, becoming a bit closer. "I forgot to ask, friend, what's your name?" The youth suddenly awkwardly laughed and asked. Zhao Fu thought about it and told the youth that he was called Zhao Xin. He could not reveal his identity, as there were no benefit to this and only detriments. Afterward, the youth told Zhao Fu that his name was Liu Xin's, and they casually chatted. Following this, they continuously killed level 2 Nyans and devoured glutinous rice balls, and they quickly both reached level 3. However, after rising to level 3, the two of them split up. This was because level 3 Nyans were essentially at the peak right now, as most people were still only level 1 Nyans and only a small portion were level 2 Nyans. If 2 level 3 Nyans hunted together, they would not be able to obtain significant gains, and it would be more inefficient to be alone. It would be better for them to split up and take over an area by themselves. With their level strength, they were essentially unrivaled, and they would be able to obtain more New Year points by themselves. Level 3 Nyans were as big as hunting dogs, and Zhao Fu also received 2 bonus attributes. One was a strength enhancement, and the other was a protective barrier. The strength enhancement was quite simple and just made him stronger, while the protective barrier was a defensive barrier that could withstand the attacks of 7 or 8 little Nyans and be used once every 10 minutes. After splitting up with Liu Xin's, Zhao Fu chose an area and started to hunt down level 2 Nyans, and almost all of the ordinary Nyans ran at the sight of Zhao Fu. None of them dared to attack him. After seeing Zhao Fu, even the level 2 Nyans decided to turn and leave. This was because level 3 Nyans were simply too powerful, and Zhao Fu could easily kill level 2 Nyans. Zhao Fu's skill at swiping and hitting bottoms had greatly improved, and even though it seemed a bit vulgar, those were the rules. Very soon, Zhao Fu turned his gaze to a level 2 Nyan, and he turned into a black blur as he sped towards it. The level 2 Nyan was given a big fright, and seeing how big Zhao Fu was, it immediately chose to run. However, all of it was for naught. Level 3 Nyans were extraordinarily fast, so Zhao Fu was about to quickly catch up to it. Just as Zhao Fu raised his paw as he had always done, the Nyan cried out. Please don't kill me. The escaping Nyan turned and said in a soft woman's voice, making Zhao Fu pause, as this voice was quite familiar. Zhao Fu thought about it but couldn't work out who this voice belonged to. It was possible that she had gone to the same university as him or was someone who he had worked with before. However, because Zhao Fu had always been quite introverted, whether it was university or work, he did not have many friends, so he could not remember who it was. Seeing as it was someone he knew, Zhao Fu decided to let her off and turned to chase down other level 2 Nyans. Seeing Zhao Fu leave, the level 2 Nyan felt quite surprised. She had never expected that asking to be spared would actually work. However, she still let out a breath of relief and wondered if the level 3 Nyan was someone she knew. Screw you. Stop chasing me. A boorish-sounding Nyan cursed at Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu had no intentions of letting him off and ferociously leapt over, kicking the Nyan's bottom 3 times. Since he had cursed at him, Zhao Fu would not let him off. The boorish-sounding Nyan howled in pain and continued to unleash insults on Zhao Fu as it faded. Suddenly, a golden light shined in the distance and was quite obvious in this region, attracting many people's gazes. All of them felt incredibly excited, as this was a golden glutinous rice ball and would be worth 500 New Year points. Immediately, countless Nyans started to rush over. 549 level 4 Nyan. Of course, Zhao Fu also saw the golden glutinous rice ball and immediately rushed over. However, someone beat him to the chase. It was a level 2 Nyan who had happened to be close by. Seeing the golden light nearby, the level 2 Nyan was quite startled before feeling incredibly excited, running over to devour the golden glutinous rice ball. Its body continuously grew as it became a level 3 Nyan. Seeing the other Nyans swarming over, the level 3 Nyan roared, scaring the ordinary level 1 Nyans and making it so that they did not dare to approach. However, there were 10 or so level 2 Nyans and 2 level 3 Nyans that did not leave, and they instead looked at the level 3 Nyan that had just devoured the golden glutinous rice ball. Zhao Fu did not join them because looking at the level 3 Nyan at the center and the other Nyans surrounding it, if he dumbly rushed in, he would not be able to obtain anything. Instead, he might be attacked by others. Seeing so many Nyans ferociously staring it down, the Nyan that had eaten the golden glutinous rice ball immediately turned and ran, and the other Nyans chased after it. A slight smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he followed behind them. However, his target was not the escaping Nyan but the ones chasing after it. This was because they were focused on their target ahead, making it easy for Zhao Fu to attack from behind. Moreover, with so many of them grouped together, he did not have to hunt them down individually. Pa! 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 Zhao Fu rushed up behind a level 2 Nyan and hit its bottom 3 times. In just an instant, he had done this to 6 of them, and the other level 2 Nyans did not dare to give chase anymore, scattering in all directions. The 2 level 3 Nyans were also afraid of being attacked from behind by Zhao Fu, so they also stopped. One of the level 3 Nyans said in a loud voice, "Let's kill this meddlesome sneak first." Seeing that it was 2 level 3 Nyans against 1, the escaping level 2 Nyans all hesitated before returning and running towards Zhao Fu. On one hand, they felt quite angry about Zhao Fu sneak attacking them. On the other hand, they might be able to obtain some benefits. After all, they had 2 level 3 Nyans on their side, so it was unlikely that they would lose. The level 3 Nyan that had eaten the golden glutinous rice ball also stopped and waited to see if there were any opportunities for it to obtain more benefits. Even though Zhao Fu had just helped him, he did not feel any gratitude, as he knew that Zhao Fu just wanted his New Year points. Seeing the Nyans coming over to surround him, Zhao Fu did not feel any fear and instead started to laugh. His body gave off a large amount of white light as his body became as big as a lion. He was now a level 4 Nyan. Seeing that Zhao Fu had become a level 4 Nyan, the others became incredibly startled, and those that were about to rush at him immediately turned and ran. However, Zhao Fu definitely wouldn't spare them. In less than a minute, he had caught up with the 2 level 3 Nyans and whacked their bottoms, gaining him 1,200 New Year points. After this, Zhao Fu turned to look at the Nyan who had eaten the golden glutinous rice ball, causing its expression to fall. However, it was already quite far away, and because Zhao Fu could not catch up to it, he turned his gaze at the level 2 Nyans that were closer. In just a few leaps, Zhao Fu caught up with a few level 2 Nyans. Just as he was about to attack them, he sensed a little Nyan coming at him from behind. Zhao Fu quickly spun and used one paw to press it against the ground. "Ah! Let go of me, you bastard!" the little Nyan said in a familiar female voice. Zhao Fu started to feel quite frustrated. It was this young woman yet again, the one who had tried to sneak attack him. Now, his body was as big as a lion while she was still only as big as a cat. Zhao Fu pressed her against the ground with a single paw, and no matter how she struggled, she could not break free. "You bastard. That hurts." The young woman Nyan yelled as she glared at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smirked. Weren't people supposed to respawn at different places? How could he have encountered her yet again? However, after killing her twice, as a level 4 Nyan, he had no interest in her anymore. Zhao Fu took his paw off her and said disdainfully, "Off you go, off you go. I won't kill you this time, but if you still come after me, I won't show mercy anymore." The young woman Nyan looked at Zhao Fu tearily, looking incredibly wronged. Seeing her like this, Zhao Fu thought about it and said sympathetically, "Alright, I'll let you hit me once. Happy?" After saying this, Zhao Fu turned and pointed his bottom at the young woman Nyan. The young woman Nyan looked at the bottom that she had wanted to attack this entire time, and her face lit up as she rushed up. However, thinking about this person's words, she started to hesitate, as he did not seem like a bad person and was instead quite nice. After all, she had tried to sneak attack him first, so there was nothing wrong about him killing her. Should she not attack him then? However, thinking about how he had killed her and humiliated her, she felt a bit wronged. After thinking for a moment, the young woman Nyan decided to hit him just once to relieve some of her anger. The young woman Nyan jumped up from the ground, swinging her little paw towards Zhao Fu. While she was in the air, she considered maybe becoming friends with Zhao Fu. However, the scene before her suddenly changed. Just as she was about to hit Zhao Fu, he suddenly turned around and swatted her away and laughed. What an idiot, she fell for something like this. "I'll kill you." Now that she had been humiliated and tricked by him, the young woman Nyan went mad and rushed towards Zhao Fu, wanting to bite off a chunk of his flesh. Seeing her rush over, Zhao Fu killed her in an instant. He had wanted to let her off, but she had actually tried to hit him. By now, she probably hated him to her bones. However, Zhao Fu did not mind too much, and he didn't think that he would see her again. Even if he did, he would just kill her again. After this, Zhao Fu continued to hunt down level 2 Nyans and continuously obtain more New Year points. After rising to level 4, Zhao Fu had obtained a new attribute, which was enhanced senses. They allowed him to sense everything around him. With this attribute, it made it very hard for him to be sneak attacked. Now that Zhao Fu was a level 4 Nyan, he was essentially the most powerful being. However, he felt that the rate at which he obtained New Year points was quite slow and wondered if there was any way for him to obtain a large amount of New Year points. Outside the New Year dreamland, Zhao Fu's body lay on a bed as the female attendants also slept soundly. After sensing Zhao Fu's thoughts, the golden dragon opened its eyes and said to the 4 swords beside the bed, "Do you want to help your owner?" The 4 swords lightly trembled and gave off different colored lights, and the slaughtering ghost sword said, "What method do you have to help owner?" The golden dragon spoke and told them its method. 550 Nyan King Domain. As Zhao Fu thought about ways to obtain a large amount of New Year points, he suddenly felt an immense pain within his head. It was a sharp, stabbing pain, and it was as if something was stabbing into his brain. This immense pain caused Zhao Fu to powerlessly fall to the ground and roar in pain. After hearing this large Nyan fall to the ground and roar in pain, many other Nyans ran over, and there were many level 2 Nyans and level 3 Nyans among them. It was evident that this Nyan was unable to fight, and with how big it was, killing it would result in a massive amount of New Year points. Everyone was greedy for New Year points, so countless Nyans rushed over. However, no one dared to make a move. After all, a thin camel was still larger than a horse, and it was still a level 4 Nyan, which was an apex predator in the New Year dreamland. Many of them were afraid that Zhao Fu was pretending, as all of them were fine. However, could they just keep watching on like this? The Nyan horde felt quite hesitant, but suddenly, they all saw a little Nyan rush out and hit Zhao Fu's bottom before quickly retreating. Massive amounts of bubbles flowed out of Zhao Fu's body and entered that little Nyan's body, making it immediately double in size and become a level 2 Nyan. Seeing this, the countless Nyan's eyes went red, and they were able to confirm that Zhao Fu was indeed unable to fight. Right now, Zhao Fu's head hurt so much that he was unable to pay attention to anything else. As such, the Nyan horde swarmed towards Zhao Fu and was just about to reach him when his head suddenly stopped hurting. Instead, there were now 4 sword lights within his head, which all gave off different lights and different auras. Zhao Fu could tell that these were his 4 swords. Zhao Fu opened his eyes and looked at the approaching Nyan horde as his eyes became cold, and he sent out the 4 sword lights. The 4 sword lights shot out in different directions, sending out massive rays of sword light that quickly annihilated all of the approaching Nyans. Seeing this, The Nyans at the outer ring were given a big fright and immediately ran away, resulting in there being a big, empty area around Xiaofu. At that moment, Xiaofu's body gave off a large amount of white light. Even though Xiaofu had just lost some New Year points, the 4 sword lights had killed countless Nyans, including level 2 and level 3 Nyans, causing Xiaofu to become a level 5 Nyan. As a level 5 Nyan, Xiaofu was now as big as an ox and even more powerful. Moreover, the light that Xiaofu's body gave off was not white anymore but rainbow-colored. Now, Xiaofu looked like a divine beast. Xiaofu felt a bit surprised, and after looking at the system announcement, he realized what was going on. Level 5 Nyans were given a bloodline attribute. In other words, his own body's bloodline was able to affect his Nyan body within the New Year Dreamland. With his sovereign bloodline, it was not too surprising that he would give off rainbow-colored light. With this bloodline attribute, all of his abilities became even more powerful. After becoming a level 5 Nyan, Xiaofu was essentially invincible, and he could also control his sword lights. He no longer had to chase after other Nyans or hit their bottoms, he could directly use his sword lights to kill them and obtain New Year points. Xiaofu did not know what was happening, it was as if there was a bug. However, he didn't mind and killed everyone who came his way, causing his New Year points to continuously increase. Suddenly, a violent glutinous rice ball appeared, and its violent light shot in all directions, dyeing the area it was in with a violet light. Seeing this, countless Nyans rushed over because violet glutinous rice balls were worth 1,200 New Year points. Because of how fast he was, Xiaofu quickly arrived but laid an ambush. Seeing the massive number of Nyans rushing over, Xiaofu grinned as he sent out his sword lights towards them. After seeing Xiaofu, countless Nyans turned and ran as they cried out, "The big Nyan's over there! Don't go over!" The big Nyan was naturally Xiaofu. With his massive body, terrifying attacks, and unique rainbow light, he had become countless Nyans' nightmare. Because Nyans could continuously revive, people continuously told other people, resulting in most people knowing about Xiaofu. As such, as soon as they heard about a big Nyan, countless Nyans desperately ran away and did not dare to go for the violet glutinous rice ball. It was clear just how terrifying Xiaofu was. However, they were unable to escape. Xiaofu caught up and pierced them with his sword lights, killing many of them, and the rest of them scattered in terror. Finally, looking at the empty region, Xiaofu put away his sword lights and ate the violent glutinous rice ball. System announcement. You have eaten a violet glutinous rice ball and obtained 1,200 New Year points. System announcement. You have become a level 6 Nyan. Just as Xiaofu ate this violent glutinous rice ball, he received 2 system announcements. His body once again became bigger, and he was now as big as an elephant. The aura he gave off was also even more powerful. At the same time, Xiaofu received a new attribute, which was Beast King Domain. Within his Beast King Domain, all of Xiaofu's attributes were enhanced, while those that stepped within his Beast King Domain would have their attributes weakened. After rising to level 6, Xiaofu became even more overpowered, and he continued to massacre everyone he came across, leaving behind no survivors. 7 hours later, Xiaofu's body had become 20 meters tall, looking like a small mountain, and he gave off a horrifying aura. Any Nyans that saw Xiaofu in the distance would immediately turn and run. By now, Xiaofu was a level 9 Nyan, a peak-level existence, and he was simply incomparable. After reaching this state, Xiaofu realized how lonely it was being this powerful and that the number of prey was decreasing. Xiaofu did not even bother killing hundreds of smaller Nyan, so he could only walk around looking for more powerful Nyan or massive groups of Nyans. Suddenly, Xiaofu saw a familiar figure, and he lightly laughed as he jumped and landed in front of a little Nyan. That little Nyan had been quite happy as she ate a glutinous rice ball, but the sudden appearance of the figure in front of her caused her to immediately turn and run. The aura of the figure in front of her was simply too powerful, simply a monster. Seeing that she wanted to run, Xiaofu stretched out a claw and pressed her against the ground, and the little Nyan looked at the massive figure in terror. Because Xiaofu's body had become so much bigger than before, it took the little Nyan a while to realize who he was before she waved her little paws, angrily shouting, "It's you again. I'll kill you." She was that young woman Nyan, and Xiaofu had never expected to see her again. Funnily enough, she still wanted to kill him, and Xiaofu grinned as he flicked her away, not even bothering killing her. 551 General Medallion time gradually passed, and soon, it had reached the time for the New Year Dreamland to close. Almost everyone had made significant gains. A Nyan that gave off a golden light devoured a violet glutinous rice ball and domineeringly roared, making the other Nyans not dare to come close. This was because they understood how powerful this Nyan was, and the Nyans that gave off different colored lights were especially terrifying. Nyans that gave off blue lights could defeat 2 Nyans of the same level, while those that gave off a silver light could defeat 5 Nyans of the same level. The Nyans around had all personally seen this golden Nyan defeat 10 Nyans of the same level. It was incredibly monstrous and struck fear into all who saw it. From what they knew, the golden Nyan was the most terrifying existence and simply invincible. This golden Nyan was Great Shang's legatee, Di Wushan. Seeing the looks of fear and respect in the Nyans around him, Di Wushan smiled before leaping and chasing after other Nyans. Apart from Di Wushan, most of the other dynasty legatees were also golden Nyans, and they gave off terrifying auras, causing the Nyans who saw them to immediately turn and run. Of course, this sort of power filled them with immense confidence. System announcement. The New Year Dreamland is about to close, and the Dreamland rankings will be revealed. The top 1,000 rankers will all receive prizes. A system announcement sounded out in everyone's minds, after which a gigantic stone seal appeared in the sky with people's names and the number of New Year points they had obtained. There's a ranking? Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and chose to hide his information. Number 1, Unknown, 580,000 New Year points. Number 2, Ji Shenming, 140,000 New Year points. Number 3, Tina Pendragon, 120,000 New Year points. Number 4, CG, 110,000 New Year points. Their names' New Year points caused countless people to stare in shock. Most of them had spent the night fighting over dozens of New Year points, while these people had obtained hundreds of thousands. It would have been fine if the rankings had not been publicly disclosed, but once it was revealed, countless people were given a big fright. Moreover, the difference between first place and second place was a whopping 44,000 New Year points. Was there some kind of bug? How could a person obtain so many New Year points? This was simply too shocking. However, even though this person hid his name, countless people gnashed their teeth. Seeing that Great Ken's legatee's name was not within the top 10, they naturally guessed who the person in first place was. None of them would believe that Great Ken's legatee could not make in the top 10. As such, it was definitely Great Ken's legatee who had obtained such a high score. Zhao Fu's shocking amount of New Year points caused the other dynasty legatees, who had felt quite pleased, to immediately feel quite bitter. The gap between them was simply too great, and if it wasn't for the fact that all of the paths were sealed by snow, they would have immediately given the order to attack Great Ken at all costs. Seeing that he was ranked first, Zhao Fu did not feel too surprised. Following this, the New Year Dreamland closed, and a big red box appeared in Zhao Fu's hands as his consciousness slowly returned to his body in the Heaven Awakened world. However, just as Zhao Fu's consciousness returned to his body, he felt something strange in his mouth, continuously moving around, causing him to open his eyes. He saw Long Zioxiao lying on his body, her hands holding his head as she closed her eyes, a greedy and infatuated look on her blushing face as she moaned and kissed him. Seeing this, Zhao Fu immediately frowned. Long Zioxiao detected something and quickly opened her eyes. Seeing that Zhao Fu had woken up, she was given a big fright and turned into a green light that dove into the Sin Dragon sword, desperately explaining, "Owner, I was doing this to help you, so don't misunderstand." Zhao Fu thought back to the 4 sword lights in the New Year Dreamland and immediately understood. However, Zhao Fu still looked at Long Zioxiao suspiciously about her help. "This is one of my Heaven Murder Empire's secret techniques. I said before that the Heaven Murder Empire controls countless secret techniques, and all of them will greatly beneficial to you. Now, you don't regret working together with me, right? However, this sort of festival is a blessing from the heavens to your legacy land, so you must grasp this opportunity and obtain as many benefits as possible. After all, it's unlikely that these festivals will be repeated in the future. Once you miss out, you won't have another chance at these festivals. They can give you massive benefits and will be your greatest help. If it wasn't for the things from these festivals, it would be quite likely that you all would be easily slaughtered in the future." The golden dragon suddenly said from within Zhao Fu's body. Hearing its words, Zhao Fu nodded. Because he had information from God Kerr, he knew more than ordinary people, so he knew what would be coming in the future. Hearing the golden dragon's explanation, Long Zioxiao let out a sigh of relief, and its favorability towards the golden dragon greatly rose. The other 3 swords didn't say anything either, allowing Long Zioxiao to relax, and she promised to get along better with them in the future. The Sky Demon's sword did not say much or feel much, while the 2 other women's faces were slightly red. Zhao Fu didn't pay much mind to this matter and discussed with the golden dragon as to what would happen in the future before looking at the red box in his hands. This was the prize for placing first in the New Year Dreamland, and Zhao Fu felt quite expectant. He then opened the red box as a blinding white light shot out from the box. Following this, a snow-white sword that gave off a holy aura appeared before Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand, grasped it before looking at its stats. Light sword, grade, legendary, stats, strength plus 20, intelligence plus 20, constitution plus 15, agility plus 15, Description: a sword forged from light stones. It has powerful holy light attributes. It was yet another sword, and it was legendary grade. Even though it was only an ordinary legendary rank weapon, it was far more powerful than epic rank weapons. It was a pity that Daisy used staffs. Otherwise, he would have given her this sword. Following this, Zhao Fu went to the exchange stone steel. Because Great Kin had 4.4 million people and they could all pool their New Year points due to being part of Great Kin, Zhao Fu was able to collect all of Great Kin's New Year points. Anyone who participated in the New Year Dreamland would automatically receive 100 New Year points, so Great Kin would receive at least 440 million New Year points. In total, Great Kin was able to gather roughly 500 million New Year points. In the face of such a monstrous number of New Year points, the number that Zhao Fu had obtained was barely anything. It seemed that this festival relied on the masses, and a single person could not achieve much by themselves. With so many New Year points, Zhao Fu was able to easily claim the #1 general medallion, which cost all of his New Year points. No one else had as many people as Great Kin, so there was no one to compete with him. 552-8 Absolute Sword Formation. After obtaining the general medallion, Zhao Fu put it away. He then thought of something else. Rather than just himself obtaining these attributes by killing many Nyans, it would be better if all of Great Kin's residents had such attributes. A single person having these attributes would not be as good as everyone having these attributes, so Zhao Fu asked the Golden Dragon if it had any other methods. The Golden Dragon immediately replied that it knew of innate absolute sword formation that could allow everyone to obtain a trace of sword chi. Even though this sword chi was not as powerful, it would still be quite useful. However, Zhao Fu would not be able to wield his powerful sword lights, and he would also need 8 exquisite swords in order to create this formation. Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite happy. This Golden Dragon was simply a treasure trove, allowing him to do things that seemed to be impossible. Of course, Zhao Fu didn't mind not having those sword lights anymore. After all, his singular gains would not be able to compare to the collective gains of Great Kin. However, it would be impossible for him to obtain first place in a New Year Dreamland in the future. Moreover, Zhao Fu only had 4 swords, which were all exquisite swords. There were also Bei Chi's 7 Murders Sword, Wang Jian's Army Destroyer Sword, and Wei Liao's Voracious Wolf Sword, which could also be said to be exquisite swords. As such, he was only lacking 1 sword. Zhao Fu suddenly thought of the light sword that he had just obtained, but the Golden Dragon said that the light sword was too lacking and did not fulfill the requirements. Even ordinary legendary rank weapons were too lacking. Zhao Fu was speechless. He first ordered his people to see if they could find another exquisite sword before turning his attention to the day event. The New Year festival was split into day and night events. The night event was the New Year Dreamland, which people could participate in while sleeping. The day event was something that required people to actually get up and do things. During the New Year, chicken, dog, fish, and red meat were often eaten, so the daytime event was to catch such animals. However, the form of the event was quite fantasy-like. First, people had to leave their doors open, as closing doors on the New Year was taboo. This was because closing doors meant that the New Year could not enter, and keeping the old year was not good luck. After opening their doors, almost every house or building would spawn golden chickens, golden ducks, golden fish, or golden pigs. Anyone who caught them would be able to obtain New Year's presents but would not obtain any New Year points. However, they could obtain all sorts of presents. Each golden animal would only appear 8 times and remain at a place for 8 minutes at a time. If they were not caught within that time, they would disappear. Golden animals also appeared within the city hall, and because Zhao Fu felt quite interested, he decided to participate as well. He waited for a while, and soon, a golden chicken appeared. Because the city hall was quite big, the golden animals were also bigger than normal. The golden chicken in front of Zhao Fu was 2 meters tall and gave off a resplendent golden light. It looked quite intelligent and seemed as if it was a real, living creature. The golden chicken was incredibly fast and beat its wings as it turned into a ray of golden light, flying all over the place. Golden chickens like this would be quite difficult to catch. However, catching it was still incredibly simple for Zhao Fu. He looked at the golden chicken flying everywhere and grabbed at the air, causing a formless hand to instantly grab that golden chicken. After catching the golden chicken gave off an ear-piercing cry that was filled with joy as opposed to fear or grief. Its body then turned into golden motes of light, leaving behind a small blessing pouch that looked similar to the one from the previous night. Zhao Fu opened the blessing pouch and obtained a dark gold rank material. Seeing that it was only a dark gold rank material, Zhao Fu felt quite disappointed. After waiting for a bit longer, a golden pig appeared in the city hall. This golden pig was also 2 meters tall and gave off a golden light. It charged all over the place in the city hall but was quickly caught by Zhao Fu, and it gave him another dark gold rank item. Seeing this, Zhao completely lost interest and gave up on catching these golden animals, leaving this to his subordinates. He then turned his attention back to the 8 absolute sword formation, which needed just one more sword. This made him feel quite frustrated because without that final sword, he would not be able to create the 8 absolute sword formation, which would bring great gains. He was surprised that even an ordinary legendary rank weapon was not sufficient, and anything above ordinary legendary rank weapons was difficult to obtain. Even ordinary epic rank equipment was rare, let alone legendary rank equipment. Zhao came before the exchange stones deal and saw that many general medallions and general fates had been exchanged. Time was of the essence, and Zhao was worried that the second-ranked general medallion could be taken soon. Suddenly, Zhao thought of something, and he couldn't help but grin. He almost forgot that he had received a Seraph Heart not too long ago. That Seraph Heart contained a massive amount of holy light power, and the light sword also contained holy light power. If he fused the two together, the light sword stats would definitely be greatly boosted, and it would definitely be able to fulfill the requirements to set up the 8 absolute sword formation. When he thought of that, Zhao did not hesitate to go to an empty area and take out the Seraph Heart and the light sword. He then chose to fuse them together. The Seraph Heart slowly fused into the light sword, causing the light sword to continuously tremble and give off a clear sword hum. Boom! An explosion sounded out as the light sword turned into a ray of white light and shot into the sky, turning into a giant orb of light, floating in the air and giving off a very powerful aura. The white light that the orb of light gave off a holy aura, but was not very intense. Instead, it gave off a feeling of warmth, in contrast to the cold temperature. Within the orb of light, a figure slowly appeared. At that moment, countless rays of white light fell from the sky as the orb of light also turned into motes of white light that slowly floated down. An angel appeared. She was tall and slim, and she had golden hair and golden eyes. She looked incredibly beautiful and was wearing long, white robes. She had 3 pairs of pristine white wings, giving off a pure, holy and warm aura. She lightly beat her wings and descended with the motes of white light. When she came before Zhao, she gently hugged Zhao's head and lightly kissed his forehead, brilliantly smiling as she said, "Owner, may the light be with you." Zhao lightly chuckled. How could the light be with him? He stretched out his hand, and the seraph turned into a sword that hovered in the air. This made Long Xiao feel incredibly jealous. That person had been able to openly hug and kiss Zhao, yet she had not made him angry. Zhao grasped the sword and looked at it carefully. The sword seemed to be forged out of platinum and was about a meter long. Its blade was quite thin, being only a few centimeters wide. There was a pair of wings at the hilt, and even though it did not give off a very sharp aura, it gave off a warm and powerful feeling. 553 Sword mark. The light sword's name became Seraph Sword, and Zhao put the sword away. Now that he already had 4 swords on him, he simply could not carry any more swords. The seraph did not seem displeased at all and only smiled as she respected Zhao's decision. This made Zhao feel quite guilty. Even though Zhao's power leaned towards darkness, the king's power did not lean towards good or evil, so Zhao could use the seraph sword if he wished. At the same time, the seraph did not express any ill intent to the sky demon, making Zhao feel quite surprised. After all, angels and demons were bitter enemies, and the sky demon expressed intense disdain towards the seraph, as she instinctively hated light attributes. Zhao thought about it and asked his subordinates about a storage for swords, and he obtained an item called a sword mark. It was a dark gold rank item that they had just obtained during the New Year festival. The sword mark was a mark that could store swords. Upon using it, a mark would appear on one's body, which would function like a spatial ring but was quite different. The swords within the sword mark would be able to freely enter or exit, and the sword mark could be used even in places where spatial rings were sealed. Moreover, it had a function that could maintain the swords. Zhao used the sword mark, and a mark in the shape of a sword appeared on the back of his left hand. Zhao looked at the space within the sword mark and found that there were 42 rectangular slots, meaning that he could store 42 swords. He could put in all of his swords. The other swords did not mind going into the sword mark, as it was essentially the same as being worn at Zhao's side. Zhao then tried out the sword mark. He first put the 5 swords in and then summoned them out. The mark on the back of his left hand flashed as 5 sword lights shot out, and 5 swords that gave off different energies floated in front of Zhao, allowing him to choose. Zhao was quite satisfied with this sword mark and also quite happy that he had finally obtained the last sword necessary to form the 8 absolute sword formation. Zhao didn't bother catching the golden animals, so it was time to set up the formation. After collecting all of the materials required, he went to an empty area in the city and drew lines, forming a 1,000-meter wide magic formation, and used energy stones to provide the energy. He then had Bei Qi, Wei Liao, and Wang Jian lent him their swords and put the 8 swords in different places around the magic formation. Each of them gave off a resplendent sword light as they fused into the magic formation. The magic formation gave off 8 different sword lights and an incredibly dangerous aura. The 8 absolute sword formation was finally complete, and Zhao Fu activated it to see what the effects would be like. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a flood of sword chi erupted out, seeming to slash through everything in the surrounding 10,000 meters. As the sword chi flew about, gashes appeared on the ground, making anyone who saw this feel a deep sense of shock and fear. The 8 absolute sword formation's true power would only be revealed at night within the New Year Dreamland, but the power that it showed was already quite shocking. The daytime event was not too important, and Zhao Fu could leave catching the golden animals to others. Seeing that he still had some time, Zhao Fu gathered his generals and discussed how to face the incoming army. After the New Year festival passed, they would definitely attack. They had simply too many people, and it would be quite difficult for Great Ken to face them. Whether they won or lost, those people would fulfill their aim in dragging down Great Ken. The meeting lasted until the New Year Dreamland opened. Zhao Fu then had people go to activate the 8 absolute sword formation as he entered the New Year Dreamland. After entering the New Year Dreamland, Zhao Fu once again became a little Nyan and had to start over from the beginning. However, within Zhao Fu's body, there was now a trace of white sword chi. This white sword chi was not as powerful as the 4 sword lights from before and could not instantly kill other Nyans, but it would still be effective at striking their bottoms. However, as a long-distance attack, it was still a massive advantage over the other Nyans who had to get close to hit other Nyans' bottoms. As soon as the white protective barrier disappeared, Zhao Fu immediately started his massacre. At first, he hid away and continuously used the white sword chi to hit other Nyans' bottoms while they were distracted. Because the sword chi was quite sharp, upon hitting other Nyans' bottoms, they would feel a sharp, prickly feeling, causing them to howl. Because Zhao Fu was hidden away, there started to be rumors of an invisible bottom-stabbing demon. On the other hand, Zhao Fu looked quite innocent as he hid in the midst of other Nyans and continuously used his sword chi. However, as he gained more and more New Year points, his body became larger and larger, and he was discovered in the end and chased after by thousands of Nyans. Facing so many Nyans, Zhao Fu had no choice but to run. Luckily, with his speed, he was able to shake all of them off. Following this, Zhao Fu ran into someone familiar, Liu Xin's. He hadn't expected to be able to find him again, and Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. After chatting, they decided to continue to work together until they reached a level where they had to split up. Without the 4 sword lights, Zhao Fu could not wantonly go around committing massacres, and it would take much longer for him to level up. The white sword chi was only effective against level 1 and level 2 Nyans, as level 3 Nyans had protective barriers, so it would not be too easy to attack them. However, Zhao Fu could accept this as even though the sword chi was not very powerful, almost everyone in Great Ken would have it. This sort of sword chi would give them a big advantage, and in light of their collective gains, Zhao Fu did not mind not doing as well. After rising to level 5 and obtaining the bloodline attribute, the speed at which Zhao Fu obtained New Year points became even faster. Just based on his powerful bloodline alone, he was able to destroy other Nyans at the same level. One time, 10 or so level 5 Nyans felt quite jealous of Zhao Fu's rainbow light, so they decided to work together to deal with Zhao Fu. Facing the 10 or so level 5 Nyans, Zhao Fu did not show any signs of panic because he had a sovereign bloodline and his stats were many times theirs. As long as he wasn't surrounded by them, he would not give them an opportunity to attack him simultaneously, and he would be invincible. As such, in front of Zhao Fu's immense power and speed, the 10 or so level 5 Nyans failed and were killed by Zhao Fu, causing Zhao Fu to become a level 6 Nyan. Time quickly passed, and soon, it was time for the end of the New Year Dreamland. This time, Zhao Fu's gains were not as great as last time. He had been a level 9 Nyan last time, but this time he had only been a level 7 Nyan. System announcement. The New Year Dreamland is about to close, and the Dreamland rankings will be revealed. The top 1,000 rankers will all receive prizes. Number 1, Tina Pendragon, 190,000 New Year points. Number 2, CG, 160,000 New Year points. Number 3, Ji Shenming, 140,000 New Year points. Everyone was quite surprised that the person in the number 1 position was Tina Pendragon. This was the first time someone other than a Chinese person had ranked first. 554 Great General. What surprised people even more was that Great Ken's legatee was not even within the top 10 because the top 10 names were all publicly revealed. All of them were dynasty legatees, and because none of them had hidden their names, it was confirmed that Great Ken's legatee had not entered the top 10. It was not just the Chinese factions who were shocked, the factions all over the world were shocked too. After all, After being suppressed by Great Kin for so long, now that they had finally surpassed Great Kin, they couldn't believe what was happening and felt like it was a dream. How was it possible that he had not entered the top 10? He had obtained a monstrous 580,000 New Year points on the first day and annihilated everyone, making them feel so much pressure that they could not breathe. This had forced all of them to think of measures to obtain more New Year points, resulting in these gains. Seeing that Great Kin's legatee, who had astounding results in the first day, not even make it into the top 10 on the second day, countless factions could not process what was going on. Following this, many laughs and cheers erupted. They had finally once again beaten Great Kin and did not have to suffer its immense pressure. Their melancholic emotions immediately became emotions of joy. Great Kin's so trash, now, it's being suppressed by us. Brothers. Let's go get a drink. We wrecked Great Kin this time. Haha, Great Kin's not all that great. I thought it was so strong, but it can't even enter the top 10 now. What trash. I'm so happy. We actually beat Great Kin. By the way, where can I pee? Seeing that Great Kin had not performed well, countless people were incredibly excited and mocked Great Kin. They had been suppressed by Great Kin all this time, so all of the feelings they had repressed were vented out. However, this was the truth, regardless of the reason, Great Kin had not entered the top 10, and they had been victorious. However, what they didn't know was that this was because Zhao Fu had given up the first place spot. If he wanted to obtain it, no one would be able to defeat him. Right now, Zhao Fu cared the most about collective gains and disregarded his individual gains. Also, some people did not sense any danger. Now that foreign factions had started to take first place, that meant that they were becoming more and more powerful. Meanwhile, the Chinese side was still fighting internally and trying to destroy Great Kin. However, since they did not care, how could Zhao Fu care? He only wanted to protect his own subjects, that would be enough for him. Since they did not treat Great Kin as their own, Great Kin would not treat them well either or help them in the future. Let alone the top 10, Zhao Fu did not even make it into the top 50 and was only ranked 58th. It seemed that almost every legatee had some sort of technique or method, or else they would not be able to obtain so many New Year points. Zhao Fu sighed as the New Year dreamland closed and his consciousness returned to his body in the heaven-awakened world. Now, it was time for the thing he had been anticipating, collecting all of Great Kin's New Year points. After seeing the total, Zhao Fu was completely startled. Great Kin's total this time was 2 billion New Year points, which was simply too shocking. Seeing this, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel ecstatic, but he quickly calmed himself down and rushed to the exchange stone steel. Apart from the first general medallion that Zhao Fu had obtained, none of the others had been purchased yet, as no one else had gathered enough New Year points. Now that it was the second day, people had definitely collected enough New Year points, so Zhao Fu could not delay and let others claim all the good prizes. After going to the exchange stone steel and seeing that the other general medallions were still there, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to purchase the second-ranked general medallion, a violet light flashed as it suddenly disappeared. Zhao Fu was greatly startled and hurriedly purchased the third-ranked general medallion, after which the fourth-ranked and fifth-ranked ones disappeared. Damn it. The parallel world Wang Jian has been claimed. Zhao Fu inwardly cursed as he hurriedly claimed the sixth-ranked general medallion, and a violet light flashed as the seventh-ranked and eighth-ranked general medallions also disappeared. Zhao Fu couldn't waste even a single second and felt incredibly hurried as he claimed the ninth-ranked general medallion and immediately went to purchase the 10th-ranked general medallion. However, a violet light flashed, and Zhao Fu's heart sank. However, suddenly, the 10th-ranked medallion appeared in Zhao Fu's hands, and Zhao Fu felt an immense wave of relief wash over him. His body was covered with sweat, and he had thought that it had been claimed by someone else. However, it turned out that he had been the one to have claimed it. Zhao Fu had 2 billion New Year points, so claiming 4 general medallions was no problem at all. After all, the first-ranked general medallion had only been 500 million New Year points, and all of the lower-ranked ones were worth less and less. What Zhao Fu was most afraid of was having a large number of New Year points but not having anything to buy. That would simply be a tragedy. Luckily, he had been able to obtain 4 general medallions today. The first was the third-ranked general, Aizen, the second was the sixth-ranked general, Wei King, the third was the ninth-ranked general, Li Mu, and the fourth was the 10th-ranked general, Zhu Liui. Now, all of the 10 great general medallions had been claimed, and with the first general medallion that he had claimed, Zhao Fu had obtained 5 general medallions. That meant he could summon 5 generals, of whom 4 were women and 1 was a man. Zhao Fu did not mind if they were men or women, all 5 of them were great generals and would be of immense help to Great Kin. Moreover, they all had their own general stars. Now, it was time to summon all of them. Everyone else felt quite curious about these parallel world historical generals, so many people came to watch. Zhao Fu took out the 5 general medallions and threw them into the air. They gave off a large amount of white light as 5 figures gradually appeared before everyone. The first was a woman wearing men's clothes. She had a nice-looking face and a graceful bearing, giving off a steady and imposing aura. She was Sun Hengxian. The second was also a woman who wore white clothes and looked extremely beautiful, but her face was as cold as ice, making people not dare to approach her. This was especially so with her eyes that were filled with a faint killing intent. She was Baizen. The third was also a woman. She wore a suit of armor, had above-average looks, and had tanned skin, giving off a heroic air. She was Wei King. The fourth was a young man who had white skin and wore gray robes, and he gave off the airs of a great general. He was Li Mu. The final person was a young woman who also wore a suit of armor and had a mature body. She had womanly airs about her and looked quite beautiful. She was Zhu Liui. Seeing the 5 people in front of him, Zhao Fu looked at their stats and found that their loyalty was only 50 as opposed to 100. 555 incapable ruler. This meant that they could run away or betray him at any time, as their loyalty was only at 50. This meant that their attitude towards Great Kin was neither good nor bad. Once their loyalty fell below 50, they could run away, and if it fell to 0 or below, they would definitely leave, and he would not be able to change their minds. There would be little to no chance of reconciliation. Zhao Fu was surprised that their loyalty was not 100, unlike Beiqi and the others, who were loyal to Zhao Fu to the death. No matter what Zhao Fu told them to do, they would follow Zhao Fu's orders and not disobey him. And yet, these generals were not as loyal. Zhao Fu thought about it and realized that it was most likely because they came from a parallel world and had no relation to him or Great Kin, unlike Beiqi and the others. After all, Beiqi and the others had been sleeping within Great Kin's legacy, so they would naturally be 100% loyal to Great Kin. For these people who came from a different world and belonged to different factions, it was impossible that they would be 100% loyal to Great Kin. "What is it, Your Majesty?" Xianru asked when she saw that Zhao Fu's expression wasn't too great. Zhao Fu told her what was on his mind, and Xianru lightly smiled and said, "In that case, Your Majesty, you should make them your concubines. Even if they're not willing at first, after becoming your women, they won't be able to fight against reality and will serve you in the end. Also, because they're all great generals, not only do they have great general fate, but because they're also women, the phoenix chi that they possess is also abnormally strong, and it is comparable to that of an empress's. Your Majesty, not only can they help you claim new territory, but they will also be able to help you stabilize your existing domain. You can never have too many of such people." After hearing Xianru's words, Zhao Fu hesitated, as he wasn't sure if this was the right thing to do. Seeing this, Xianru understood what Zhao Fu was thinking and slightly bowed as she said, "Your Majesty, you have to think of the grand scheme of things. This way, not only will you be able to subdue them, but you'll also be able to provide the Emperor Phoenix statue with a large amount of Phoenix Chi." "All right." Zhao Fu looked at the 5 people in front of him and said, "Now that you are Great Kin's generals, I will not mistreat any of you. If you view me as a friend or family, I will do the same." Despite Zhao Fu saying such words, the 5 people's loyalty did not change at all. Even though what Zhao Fu said were his heartfelt words, all 5 of them were generals and would not make a judgment of Zhao Fu simply based off what he said. As such, they remained wary and alert. Zhao Fu understood this, so he said, "Shang Yang, take Li Mu and familiarize him with Great Kin. As for you 4, come with me." Sun Hengxiang and the 3 other women looked at each other but were unable to guess what Zhao Fu's aim was. As such, they followed Zhao Fu to a hall, while Xianru stayed by Zhao Fu's side. After entering the hall, Xianru started to write on paper with a brush, and Zhao Fu looked at the 4 of them and did not hesitate to say, "I want you all to become my concubines." This caused the 4 women's expressions to all change. They never expected that this would be Zhao Fu's aim. They were all great generals, yet he did not value their skills and abilities. Instead, he was after their bodies. Could they really serve a lascivious and incapable ruler like this? Sun Hengxiang, Wei King, and Zhu Liui's loyalty plummeted to 0, and they decided to escape instead of serving Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu couldn't help but sigh as he had expected this. However, what surprised him was that Baizen's loyalty increased by 10, rising to 60. What was going on? Was it because Baizen also belonged to Great Kin in the parallel world? Was that why she was more loyal to Great Kin? Zhao Fu looked at Baizen's icy cold face but could not guess what she was thinking. "Your Majesty, I request to leave." "Rest assured, I promise to never act against Great Kin as an enemy," Sun Hengxiang said resolutely as she paid her respects to Zhao Fu. "Your Majesty, I would also like to leave." "Please allow me to," Wei King said seriously. "Your Majesty, I would also like to leave." "I will not become an enemy of Great Kin either," Zhu Liui also said. Zhao Fu felt quite frustrated, It had taken a lot of effort to obtain these generals, yet they said they wanted to leave. It was impossible for Zhao Fu to allow them to leave, as they would definitely accomplish great things. If they were to serve someone else, they would be very dangerous for Great Kin, so releasing them would be like releasing a tiger back to the mountain. Moreover, since Great Kin had expended great resources to summon them, how could he just let them go like this? Even though Zhao Fu didn't want to force them to stay here against their will, he had no other choice. Zhao Fu could only reply with a cold expression and domineering tone, "Do you really think that's possible? You will become my concubines, that's something you cannot change. Came to my chambers tonight, this is non-negotiable." By now, Xianru had finished writing, and hearing Zhao Fu's words, she smiled and handed the 4 pieces of paper to Zhao Fu. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Sun Hengxiang, Wei Qing, and Zhu Liui's faces became pale, and they felt quite angry. Sun Hengxiang pointed at Zhao Fu as she cursed, "You lewd and incapable ruler. Do you really think we'd submit to you? You underestimate us too much." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite angry and icily looked at them. However, he did not bother saying anything because they could not resist. As long as he made them his concubines, the nation fate suppressing them would make it impossible for them to even die. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and took the 4 pieces of paper. "I'm willing to become your concubine," someone icily said, surprising everyone and making everyone look at that person. Zhao Fu also looked at Beizhen with surprise. Facing everyone's gaze, Beizhen stood there like an ice statue, not reacting in any way. The scene fell silent, and Xianru quickly broke the silence as she said, "Your Majesty, hurry and confer the title on them." Zhao Fu came back to his senses, took out the imperial ruler's seal, and pressed it on the 4 pieces of paper, causing them to shine with golden light. Sun Hengxiang, Wei Qing, and Zhu Liui's expressions fell, as they had a bad feeling. However, they were unable to resist, and they did not even have any weapons on them. They were much smarter than average women, so they thought about it and decided to wait for an opportunity. Zhao Fu did not say much as he waved his hand, and the 4 pieces of paper turned into golden rays of light that entered the 4 women's bodies. Immediately, a large amount of golden phoenix chi flowed out of their bodies, after which 4 small golden phoenixes flapped their wings and flew towards the heaven prayer platform. Scree-ee-ee. A phoenix cry sounded out, bringing with it an immense might as the entire sky was dyed golden. Clouds started to swirl, and Zhao Fu had never expected their phoenix chi to be able to cause changes within the Emperor Phoenix statue. Even the golden dragon within Zhao Fu's body was quite shocked and said, "Zhao Fu, I never thought that you had something like this. Once it develops, it will be incredibly powerful." 556 Golden Phoenix. Zhao Fu smiled. If even the golden dragon was that shocked, that meant that the Emperor Phoenix statue was definitely quite extraordinary. Great Kin definitely had to continue collecting phoenix chi. After going outside, they saw a golden phoenix with a wingspan of 10 meters giving off a bright golden light flying in the sky. Its movements were incredibly elegant, and its cries were quite pleasant to listen to. Countless birds were attracted over, and they flew behind the golden phoenix, painting a beautiful scene. Traces of a black aura rose up from the ground, and Zhao Fu could feel Great Kin's fate continuously becoming purified. The golden phoenix's light also caused Zhao Fu's body to go through changes, and sensing this, the golden dragon and black dragon within Zhao Fu's body cried out. Following this, the Emperor Phoenix returned to the heaven prayer platform and became a crystal statue again. Zhao Fu went back into the hall and had people take Sun Hengxiang and the other women away. Zhao Fu did not participate in the daytime event. Instead, he took care of some other matters. Soon, it was night time, and this event was one that Zhao Fu had to participate in. After going to his bedroom, the 4 women were already there. They had all had makeup put on them, and they were all wearing women's clothing, looking even more enchanting than before. Sun Hengxiang, Wei Qing, and Zhu Liui's expressions were all quite unpleasant, and they stood in the corner, not willing to approach, while Beizhen was already in the bed. Zhao Fu walked in and coldly looked at the 3 women as he said, "You can get in the bed yourself, and we can keep things amicable, don't make me use force." Hearing Zhao Fu's words, they thought that Zhao Fu wanted to take their bodies by force. Their faces paled, and they slightly hesitated as their eyes became filled with tears. They then went to the bed. They had never suffered such humiliation before. If it was before, they would rather have died than suffer this humiliation. However, after being made concubines by Zhao Fu and being restricted by Great Kin's fate and Emperor Phoenix statue, they could not even die. However, hearing that they could at least keep things amicable, they decided to get on the bed. After all, that would be better than being forced by Zhao Fu. With their strength, it was impossible to resist Zhao Fu, and they would still lose their bodies. After the 4 women were all lying on the bed, Zhao Fu took off his outer clothes and laid on the bed, but he did not do anything after. Since they were so reluctant, it was impossible for Zhao Fu to actually force them. Even if he did force himself on them, he would just have some temporary pleasure, while they would definitely try to find ways to commit suicide afterward. With their personalities, they would definitely do such a thing, this was obvious. Even if they didn't die, they would never serve Great Kin, and Great Kin would lose them forever. After all, they were great generals, and losing them would be a great loss to Great Kin. Right now, Zhao Fu just wanted them to accept the position they were in and slowly change their minds, as opposed to harming them. Zhao Fu was on the rightmost side of the bed, and next to him was Beiza. She was still just as cold-looking, lying there like a block of wood and not moving at all. Her breathing remained steady, and it was as if she was lying on the bed by herself. If it wasn't for the fact that Zhao Fu could sense the heat from her body, he would have thought that there was a corpse beside him. After lying down and pulling the blanket over himself, Zhao Fu did not move. Sun Han Xiang, Wei King, and Zhu Liui inwardly let out sighs of relief, while Beiza opened her eyes and turned her head to look at Zhao Fu. Feeling her eyes on him, Zhao Fu also looked over, and their eyes met. Beiza did not say anything and continued to look at Zhao Fu with her cold eyes. This made Zhao Fu feel quite curious, and he asked the question he had wanted to ask the previous day: why were you willing to become my concubine? Beiza expressionlessly replied, "This is Great Kin, and you are the ruler of Great Kin. Also, I like domineering men. If my body is useful to Great Kin or to your majesty, I'm willing to give it up." Hearing her words, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel a trace of respect. This was a woman who was willing to give everything for Great Kin. However, her loyalty was only 60, yet if she really did decide to serve Great Kin, she would be completely loyal to it to the death. Moreover, as Zhao Fu thought about it, he realized that her heart was most likely still at the parallel world's Great Kin. She was loyal to that Great Kin, and even though she was willing to serve Zhao Fu's Great Kin, her heart was not here. Zhao Fu lightly nodded and said, "Sleep early." It was past 8 p.m., and because the New Year Dreamland had opened, Zhao Fu could not dally and waste time. As for sleeping with them, he did not have to worry about being assassinated. After all, they were restricted by Great Kin's fate, and with the Golden Dragon, even if Zhao Fu entered the New Year Dreamland, they would not be able to succeed. After entering the New Year Dreamland, Zhao Fu once again became a little Nyan, and he started fighting, continuously killing other Nyans. His level became higher and higher as he collected more and more New Year points. System announcement. The New Year Dreamland is about to close, and the Dreamland rankings will be revealed. The top 1,000 rankers will all receive prizes. Soon, it was time for the New Year Dreamland to close. Zhao Fu's gains were better than last time, and he wondered what his rank would be this time. Number 1, Tina Pendragon, 210,000 New Year points. Number 2, Caesar Augustus, 190,000 New Year points. Number 3, Minamoto Jin, 170,000 New Year points. Number 4, CG, 160,000 New Year points. The person in first place was Tina Pendragon again, and because of her performance the previous night, no one was too surprised. The second-ranked person was the Roman Empire's Caesar Augustus, which made many people quite shocked. No one had expected the third-ranked person to be someone called Minamoto Jin. He was a Japanese person, the successor to Japan's imperial family. Japan's imperial family had always been a single family, and even though Japan had been controlled by various different factions throughout the ages, the imperial family and the position of emperor had always existed. Minamoto Jin was a dark horse in this competition, and countless people felt quite shocked. After all, Japan was not very big, so it did not have much fate. In previous events, it had always been the major dynasty legatees taking the top spots. A Japanese person taking third caused all of Japan to erupt into celebrations. Indeed, this was something worth celebrating. What also surprised many people was that no Chinese person had entered the top 3, and Great Zai as legatee had only ranked 4th. Countless Chinese people's expressions darkened, and their hearts were filled with disappointment. However, seeing that Great Kin's legatee was still not within the top 10, they felt a bit better. Not just China's factions, but many factions all over the world were quite happy. Zhao Fu's gains this time were a bit better than last time, but he was still only ranked 31st. He had only been able to achieve this with his sword chi and his sovereign bloodline. He wondered what methods the other dynasty legatees had used. Their methods definitely weren't weak at all. 557 Pleasant surprise. Now that Great Kin's legatee had once again not made it into the top 10, many foreign factions started to mock and provoke China. Chinese people are all trash, victory belongs to us. Next time we attack China, we'll take their women and make them serve us. China has gone into decline, wasn't it so powerful before? This is too disgraceful. We're the most superior in the world. The Chinese are like livestock and should be killed, they're not even worthy to put on our shoes for us. Ha ha ha, Chinese people are dogs. If you're angry, come bite me. Facing these words of mockery and provocation, many Chinese people could not endure it and cursed back, and an intense battle of cursing ensued. However, there were many people who did not bother to take notice of this and continued to go about matters peacefully. They wanted to show the foreign nations that Chinese people were friendly and that they could coexist in harmony. Zhao Fu did not know about any of this, and after coming out of the New Year dreamland, he looked at the 4 women sleeping beside him. He got up and left, going to collect Great Qin's New Year points. This time, they had collected another 2 billion New Year points. Zhao Fu came before the exchange stones deal and looked to see if there was still anything worth exchanging for. All of the 10 general medallions had been claimed, so Zhao Fu looked at the general fates. Compared to the general medallions, the general fates were much cheaper. After all, Great General level general fate cost about 300 million New Year points, but every faction could only purchase 1 Great General level general fate. The other ones were all inferior general fates, and there were also purchase restrictions. As such, Zhao Fu spent 300 million New Year points to purchase a Great General level general fate and did not see anything else of value. He did not bother looking at any inferior general fates, so he could only continuously look through the exchange stone steel. Otherwise, all of the New Year points he had would go to waste. Back within the room, the 4 women had woken up, and seeing that Zhao Fu had already left, they felt quite surprised. Nothing had happened during the night, and afterward, some female attendants came in to bring them breakfast and things to wash up with. They then took them to their own rooms. There, they also met the other women who had been made concubines. Seeing so many beautiful women, Sun Hengxian, Wei Qing, and Zhu Liui inwardly cursed at Zhao Fu for being a lascivious and incapable ruler. However, after chatting with them, they were surprised to find that they had misunderstood Zhao Fu. Afterward, a few female soldiers took them out of the city hall and showed them around the Great Qin city. Seeing how prosperous and bustling the Great Qin city was, as well as how the residents praised Zhao Fu, Sun Hengxian, Wei Qing, and Zhu Liui fell silent, while Beizen's expression remained the same as she walked beside them. After looking through the exchange stone steel, Zhao Fu saw that there was not much else of value, so he called Zhao Jian over and gave him a violet orb. This was the general fate. He could only exchange for 1, and out of the generals, Zhao Jian's performance had been the best. Even though he was a bit extreme, he could resolve matters that he dealt with quickly, so Zhao Fu decided to give the general fate to him. If he could obtain another one, he would give it to Zhongde because he did things calmly and steadily. Zhao Jian immediately expressed his gratitude to Zhao Fu before returning to his own courtyard to fuse with the general fate. Zhao Fu took care of some more matters before wearily returning to his room at night. Zhao Fu was surprised to see that the 4 female generals were within his room, as he did not ask them to come. He had only wanted to humble them the previous night, but tonight, the 4 of them were already lying on the bed. They thought that Zhao Fu still wanted them to sleep with him, and they also wanted to test what he was thinking. As such, they were very cooperative, and not only were they lying on the bed, but they were also only wearing a thin gown that accentuated their bodies' curves. What was going on? Zhao Fu felt incredibly surprised, and after looking at their loyalty, he saw that Sun Hengxian, Wei Qing, and Zhu Liui's loyalty had increased from 0 to 20. Even though this loyalty was not very high, Zhao Fu was still pleasantly surprised because as time went on and they understood Great Qin more, their loyalty would continue to increase, and they would most likely serve Great Qin in the future. Moreover, Beizen's loyalty had increased to 70. Zhao Fu guessed that something must have happened during the day for their loyalty to rise so quickly. Following this, Zhao Fu entered the New Year dreamland, and through his efforts, he received similar gains to the previous night. System announcement. The New Year dreamland is about to close, and the dreamland rankings will be revealed. The top 1,000 rankers will all receive prizes. Following this, a massive stones deal appeared in the sky, and names and numbers also appeared. Number 1, Tina Pendragon, 220,000 New Year points. Number 2, Caesar Augustus, 200,000 New Year points. Number 3, Akhenaten, 210,000 New Year points. Number 4, Minamoto Jin, 190,000 New Year points. The top 2 people did not change, but the new third place was Akhenaten, the legatee of the ancient Egyptian Empire. Minamoto Jin was now ranked 4th, and ranked 5th was Zoroastria's legatee, and Great Zhu's Ji Shenming was 6th. This time, the factions all over the world celebrated. Now, China, which had always been number 1, was not even in the top 5. This was something worth being excited about. On the other hand, countless people within China had dark looks on their faces and felt quite dispirited. Their confidence had been heavily wounded, and the enemies of China became more and more arrogant, their insults becoming worse and worse, saying things like they wanted to make the men slaves and use their women like tools. Zhao Fu's ranking was still a bit higher, but he started to worry about the rankings and was worried that there could be a big shift of fate. During ancient times, the world's fate was mostly gathered around the east, and the west had been fairly behind. However, after a big shift in fate, the world's fate gathered mostly around the west, causing the east's fate to weaken, and even now it had not fully recovered. Zhao Fu was worried that such a thing could happen again. Even though China had a lot of territory in the Midland continent and had a big advantage, once its overall fate weakened, it would not be able to withstand the invasion of foreign nations. If this was the case, Zhao Fu had to quickly restore great kin. Not too long after his consciousness returned to his body, an urgent knocking sounded out at the door as a soldier said, "Your Majesty, things are bad. I have an urgent matter to report." Zhao Fu's expression immediately changed. Very rarely were there such urgent matters, so something big must have happened. Zhao Fu quickly got up, put on his clothes, and went outside. 558 Sudden attack. The sound of the door being knocked woke the four women on the bed, and they looked at each other, sensing that something big was going to happen. They felt quite curious, and they hadn't realized that they had started to care a bit about great kin. Their views of Zhao Fu slightly changed, and their loyalty slowly increased. After going outside, Zhao Fu looked at the soldier in front of him and asked, "What's going on?" The soldier immediately respectfully replied, "Your Majesty, the player armies from the four regions around us have started to invade the Forest of Horrors. The generals are all in the meeting hall. Please meet with them as soon as possible, Your Majesty." Zhao Fu's expression became serious. He had never thought that they would attack Greatkin at such a time. It was only the 4th day of the New Year festival, and there were still 3 more days until it concluded. They did not care about the snow, or the debuffs to their stats, and they had suddenly attacked Greatkin? Zhao Fu felt quite shocked as he went to the meeting hall. After arriving, everyone paid their respects to him, and Zhao Fu nodded as he sat down in the main seat and looked at Beiqi as he asked, "What's going on? Tell me the situation in detail." Beiqi immediately replied, "It's like this, Your Majesty. We're not too sure what's happening, but right after the New Year Dreamland closed, the Dynasty legatees ordered the players to attack Greatkin and that any losses would be compensated by them. As soon as they started to move, our spies quickly came back to report this to us. By now, they've already crossed the Void Zone and have entered the Forest of Horrors. Luckily, we were prepared and set up a large number of isolation barriers, making it impossible for them to use teleportation channels. As such, they can only march through the snow, making their advance much slower. Otherwise, they might have reached us already." Zhao Fu nodded, then returned to the real world. Zhao Fu could not obtain very detailed information in the Heaven Awakened world, so he returned to the real world to do some investigating and heard about some recent matters. Currently, the relations between China and the foreign factions were not too good, and there had been some conflict. Ordinarily, these conflicts would not be Greatkin's problem, but they all viewed Greatkin as their common enemy. As such, they decided to heavily wound Greatkin first before fighting. Otherwise, with Greatkin as a threat, they would not be able to feel safe. Another reason was that after not being within the top 10 for 3 days, all of the factions thought that something had happened to Greatkin. Moreover, given that the attack would be in the middle of a festival, they believed that Greatkin would not expect them to suddenly attack, and perhaps they would be able to achieve great things. Indeed, Greatkin had not expected them to launch an attack halfway through the festival. Luckily, Zhao Fu had not let down his guard and had made various preparations. Otherwise, they might have been doomed this time. After gaining some more information, Zhao Fu returned to the Heaven Awakened world. There were 4 player armies in total, and each of them had 3 million people. They came from all directions to attack Greatkin. Because of the battle from last time, Greatkin's location had been exposed, and they all knew where it was. As such, they did not wander around aimlessly. Instead, they made a beeline for Greatkin. Moreover, they had also made plenty of preparations as well. Even if Greatkin set up many traps, they would be able to deal with them in various ways to avoid the outcome from last time. The 4 armies totaled 12 million people, and because they had made sufficient preparations, Greatkin was in a very disadvantageous position. Currently, their population was only 4.4 million or so, and they only had 800,000 soldiers. It would be very difficult for them to defend against 12 million people. Luckily, none of the system main cities had participated, otherwise, just 4 system main cities would be quite difficult to defend against. However, Greatkin had an advantage in the fact that it was defending. Moreover, the weather was quite cold, and snow covered the land, making their advance quite slow. Moreover, the Grinch status reduced their stats by 30% and would cause their bodies to be more susceptible to getting sick, so Greatkin had a big advantage. Moreover, Zhao Fu had long since discussed with his generals how to face a player army invasion, so they had made preparations as well. Great Kin's assassins were used to the complex terrain and would be able to produce unexpected effects. As such, Zhao Fu had boosted the assassins' numbers to 50,000 people, adding another 20,000 people. The ordinary people created big problems for Great Kin every time and severely threatened Great Kin, and this was not just once or twice but many times. Because of their ability to respawn, they were completely dauntless, and in the face of massive benefits, they had stood against Great Kin. Zhao Fu had had enough of them, so he decided to take drastic measures. Zhao Fu's eyes gave off a cold light as he gave orders to the 50,000 assassins, and they quickly left, carrying out Zhao Fu's orders. Because Sun Hengxian and the other women were all great generals, Zhao Fu did not restrict their movements and allowed them to participate. After hearing the orders that Zhao Fu had given to the assassins, they felt a chill within their hearts and looked at Zhao Fu in a new light. He was far more terrifying than they had expected. At the same time, they realized how much mercy Zhao Fu had shown them. They didn't even want to think about how Zhao Fu would have treated them if they hadn't submitted. The four armies slowly advanced towards Great Kin, and because of how thick the snow was, each step caused their bodies to sink halfway down. It was incredibly difficult to walk, but in order to attack Great Kin, they had made preparations. One thing they had prepared was ice crystal stones, which turned the soft snow into solid ice that people could work on. This essentially allowed them to create a massive path of ice. This sort of method was much more effective than walking with their legs, but with how large a region was, if they walked the whole way, it would take them days to reach where Great Kin actually was. As such, their speed was still quite slow. There were many people who were not very satisfied with suddenly attacking Great Kin in these conditions. If it wasn't for the money offered, no one would want to come out and fight during such cold days. Moreover, because they were using up the time that they could have been spending participating in events, the rewards they received from the events would be less. However, since so much money was offered, they did not mind too much. Moreover, the daytime event was not too important, so it was not a big deal to give it up. They could still go into the New Year Dreamland at night, so they could receive 2 sets of rewards. 559 Night Vigil Massacre. After walking for a day, the player army found a flat region and tiredly began to set up camp. They did not sense any danger and had some people stay up as guards while the rest went into their tents and slept. Of course, they could go into the New Year Dreamland and participate in the event. After all, by doing this, they would not be wasting any time. It's freezing, yet they want us to stand guard at night, a youth said as he stood next to the bonfire with his arms wrapped around him. A chubbier youth next to him also said unhappily, yeah. Why does it have to be us standing guard? Why can't they do it? A middle-aged uncle near them looked at them and said, ask the manager tomorrow, he'll most likely give us some more rewards. Also, I'm going to just go into the New Year Dreamland quickly. As long as we go in, we can still get 100 New Year points and use those points to redeem things. We can't let those 100 New Year points go to waste. Hearing the middle-aged uncle's words, the two youths grinned. Since there would be extra money, there was nothing to complain about. As such, they allowed the uncle to quickly enter the New Year Dreamland, after which they would also go in and get those 100 New Year points as well. The uncle was not worried about much. After all, there were many night vigils, so there would not be much danger. As such, the uncle leaned against a tree and closed his eyes, entering the New Year Dreamland. Just as the two youths were about to start chatting again, a cold light flashed, and blood spurted out. The two youths fell to the ground, dead. A few hooded figures appeared next to them, and one of them checked on the two youths before motioning at the uncle leaning against the tree. One of the hooded figures went over and knocked the middle-aged uncle out. It wasn't that the Great Ken assassins didn't want to kill him, but that after entering the New Year Dreamland, if they suffered a fatal attack, they would receive a system announcement and would be forcefully woken up. As such, they could not kill anyone who was sleeping. However, taking advantage of the player's relaxed guard, the assassins could kill many people during the night, but their goal was not simply to assassinate. The 50,000 assassins were split into 4 teams to deal with the 4-player armies. Because of the New Year Dreamland, the assassins did not wantonly massacre and instead knocked out the people who were in the New Year Dreamland and moved their bodies. After knocking those people out, they would drag them out of the camp, and the assassins came and dragged 50,000 people out of the camp. After bringing these people out of the camp, the assassins bound them with ropes. Because they were now quite some distance away, it did not matter if they yelled out, as no one would hear them. Buckets of cold water were poured on their bodies, and that icy feeling woke all of them up. Looking at the hooded figures around them, they instinctively sensed a wave of danger and started to cry out. Who are you all? Let me go. Sir, I just wanted to earn some rewards, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I'm still a child. The Great Ken assassins coldly looked at all of them and did not reply. Instead, they took out sharp knives and started to carry out Zhao Fu's orders. After the night passed, as the sun gradually rose from the horizon, the rest of the players arose from their slumber and yawned before leaving their tents. A cry sounded out, causing many people to rush out of their tents in surprise, and they found many dead guards. The enemy had attacked the previous night, but none of them had noticed anything. The commander in charge hurriedly said, "Hurry and check who's dead and who's missing." A few people beside him immediately left, and they came back a while later and replied, "We're missing around 50,000 people, and apart from some people who were killed, there aren't any other losses." "There are only 50,000 people missing?" Hearing this, the commander let out a sigh of relief. They had 3 million people, so 50,000 was not a great loss. It seemed that Great Ken had discovered them, so they could not act carelessly. After thinking about it, the commander gave out some orders. As for those missing 50,000 people, without even thinking about it, the commander knew that they were dead. Because these people did not die true deaths, no one else minded too much either. However, after knowing that Great Ken had launched a sneak attack at night, they all felt quite scared and became even more cautious. After packing their things, the commander gave the order to quickly advance so that they would join together with the other armies. Once they had 12 million players gathered together, Great Ken would not be able to do much, and he was confident that they would not lose. This was because Great Ken had been forced to retreat by a few million players last time, which meant that Great Ken did not have any terrifying measures left. As such, they felt quite confident. If the 12 million players attacked Great Ken together, there was a high likelihood that they could destroy Great Ken or at least heavily wound it. After going back, they would be viewed as heroes and would be heavily rewarded. When he thought about that, the commander started to grin. Terrified screams sounded out from the head, and the commander was greatly startled. He immediately took people over. After reaching that place, he saw many people collapsed onto the ground, their bodies trembling and their faces pale. Some people were even continuously vomiting. The commander felt quite surprised, but as he looked ahead, he felt a bone-chilling feeling spread throughout his body. His hands and feet felt incredibly cold, and he had an incredibly shocked expression on his face because this scene was simply a bloody purgatory. There were many corpses hung on trees, nailed to trees, or lying on the ground. All of these corpses had died different deaths, but all of them had died in horrific ways. Some people had been skinned and then hung, allowing the cold wind to blow against their exposed flesh. There was a layer of ice on their bodies, and a few people were still on their dying breaths, weakly breathing. Some people had been bound to trees, but their stomachs had been sliced open from their throat to their lower body, causing their internal organs to spill out. Some people had their hands and feet chopped off, their eyes gouged out, and their tongues cut off. Ropes were tied around their waists, hanging them on the trees. Some were still howling pitifully. Some people were pierced by long spears through their anuses, and some of them were speared together, making them look like a kebab skewer. Some women's eyes had also been gouged out, and their lower bodies had been pierced, nailing them against trees. Some people even had pieces of their flesh cut off, leaving them a bloodied mess, and their corpses were also nailed against trees. 560 cruel deaths. All of the corpses had expressions twisted in extreme pain as they hadn't died from a fatal attack. Instead, they had slowly died from unspeakable agony. There were countless corpses here, forming the terrifying scene ahead. Almost all of the 50,000 people who had disappeared had died here. What sort of person would do such a thing? It was simply too inhumane and cruel. Seeing the shocking scene ahead, countless people felt a chill within their hearts, and their bodies uncontrollably trembled. Great Ken's ruthlessness froze them in place, and they did not dare to take a single step forward. They would not die true deaths, but Zhao Fu would make them wish for death and make them endure immense pain and suffering. Zhao Fu had not wanted to do this, but they had provoked him time and time again and brought a great threat to Great Ken. They had pushed Zhao Fu's patience to the limit, so he was forced to use this sort of cruel measure to force back the attacking player army. Seeing this scene, many people in the player army did not wish to continue anymore. Once they were caught by Great Ken, they would end up like this as well. They would be better off dead than alive, and they did not want to suffer this sort of pain. As such, many people decided to leave. If they stayed here and were caught by Great Ken, they would be doomed. Seeing this, the commander calmed them down before returning to the real world to report this. As this matter spread into the real world, countless people gasped. These measures were simply too cruel and ruthless. As a cultured society, those who heard about this started to condemn and curse at Great Ken. They already thought of Great Ken as evil and what they were doing as just and righteous, so everyone stood on the victim's side, acting like they were supporting righteousness. The countless factions also felt quite terrified. Right at the beginning, Great Ken had used such extreme tactics. It seemed that before, Great Ken had been showing mercy the entire time. Only now did everyone realize just how terrifying and merciless Great Ken was, so they had to be wary when opposing Great Ken, or they would turn out like that as well. Countless people condemned Great Ken's cruel behavior, causing Great Ken's reputation to plummet even further. Seeing how madly twisted Great Ken had become, the 100 schools of thought and various sects all sighed. They were unable to stop either side. The dynasty legatees all believed that something must have happened to Great Ken, otherwise, it would not have used such cruel and merciless tactics to scare people off. As such, they decided to continue the attack. After receiving a reply, the commander returned to the Heaven Awakened world and told everyone that the rewards would be doubled and that suicide pills would be provided. If they were caught, they would be able to immediately commit suicide and not endure any pain. Suicide pills were a very unique type of medicinal pill that could be consumed first and activated later. They contain lethal poison and would allow one to die quickly. Hearing that the rewards would be doubled and that suicide pills would be provided, the players felt quite excited, and many of them decided to stay and continue. Zhao Fu also heard about this. He had thought that with these terrifying measures, he would be able to scare off a large portion of the players, but it seemed that he had underestimated the factions and players. As such, he could only use that to destroy one of the player armies before thinking about how to deal with the other three. Zhao Fu gathered his military forces and set out. The East Side's commander was called Liu Hongjian, and he was from the School of Military. He led the strongest army out of the 4 player armies. Facing his army, Great Ken's assassins had nearly failed, but because there were so many players with their guards down, they had still been able to take away some people. Zhao Fu's main goal was this army. If they could destroy the strongest army, their morale would definitely plummet, and Great Ken's chance of success would greatly rise. On the east side, a valiant-looking middle-aged man led the player army slowly forward. This man was naturally Liu Hongjian. Liu Hongjian was somewhat well known in the School of Military, or else he would not have been made the commander. He had complete confidence for this battle, and he was certain that they would be able to heavily injure Great Ken. Everyone else tried to curry favor with Liu Hongjian and insulted Great Ken, while Liu Hongjian merely smiled. He did not bother listening to these people, and because he knew just how terrifying Great Ken was, he did not dare to be careless. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as 10 black pillars of light rushed into the sky, and a gigantic black magic formation appeared, giving off a large amount of black light and an eerie deathly intent. Rumble! It was as if there was a flood approaching from the head as a flood of deathly aura surged towards them. Liu Hongjian was greatly startled and knew that Great Ken was attacking. However, he quickly calmed down, called over one of his trusted aides, and gave him some instructions. After listening to Liu Hongjian's words, the trusted aide immediately turned and left. Prepare yourselves. Liu Hongjian roared as all of the players started to get into formation. The shield bearers rushed up to form a shield wall, the archers drew their bows, and the infantrymen also braced themselves. Before bringing this player army out, Liu Hongjian had given them some basic training, so they could coordinate in an orderly fashion. Rumble. The massive sound continued to come closer, and Liu Hongjian's pupils constricted as he saw just what was coming. They were skeletons. There were humanoid skeletons and beast skeletons, and there were roughly 2 million or so of them. All of the skeletons gave off a black aura, making it seem as if a black ocean was flooding towards them. Its aura was incredibly ferocious, and the deathly aura also made the players feel a chill within their hearts. Liu Hongjian already knew a lot about Great Ken, and he knew that Great Ken could summon undead disasters. However, he had thought that they were unable to do so anymore, or else they would not have been chased down by those 3 million players previously, which was quite shameful. However, Liu Hongjian had never expected that Great Ken could still summon an undead disaster on one of this magnitude. These skeletons were comprised of the corpses that Great Ken had collected while clearing the Forest of Horrors, as well as the wild beasts it had come across and the livestock it had raised. That was why Zhao Fu had ordered his soldiers to collect these corpses, to be used in key moments like this. Originally, Zhao Fu only wanted to use this undead disaster to break through a defensive wall and stop Great Ken from being surrounded. However, he had never expected these people to suddenly attack Great Ken. However, now, he had a better use for them, and with their help, Great Ken would be able to easily destroy this player army. Swish, swish, swish. Before the undead army had rushed up, countless arrows suddenly shot out from the left and right, tearing through the air with immense force. 561 10 times rewards. The sudden onslaught of countless arrows from both sides was completely unexpected by the players. After all, facing the massive skeleton army ahead, they hadn't expected there to also be an ambush on both sides. Kai. Countless arrows fell like rain, burying themselves into the players' bodies. Blood spurted everywhere as many people immediately died. The smell of blood caused the skeleton army to rush over with even more vigor, and their aura became even more ferocious. At that moment, 12 figures appeared in the air, all of whom gave off a massive aura. The pressure that came from the 12 figures weighed down on the players' chests, making it difficult for them to even breathe. Boom. Beichi raised a 7 murderous sword and sent all of his power into it, causing it to give off a terrifying blood-red light that almost dyed the entire sky blood-red. A sword wind gathered around him, and it was filled with a murderous aura that made the players below feel incredibly terrified. Following this, Beichi slashed downwards, causing a massive blood-red sword light to flash towards the massive shield wall. The other city lords also unleashed their power and attacked the shield wall as well. The terrifying attacks blasted the shield wall open like lightning, and many shield bearers and infantrymen were instantly killed. In just an instant, countless attacks flew past, causing blood and severed limbs to fly into the air. The ground was dyed blood-red, and even though the player army had many people, they did not have any extremely powerful figures, which was their greatest weakness. Liu Hongjian could only order the countless archers to attack the 12 figures in the sky. The multitude of arrows forced Beichi and the others to temporarily retreat and go on the defensive. Boom. A massive explosion rang out as the skeleton army smashed into the remainder of the shield wall. The remaining segments were not very powerful anymore and was wholly unable to stop the incoming skeleton army. The instant that the shield wall was destroyed, the countless skeletons eerily laughed and started to madly attack the players. The beast-type skeletons rushed up to bite the players, while the humanoid skeletons continuously slashed out with their weapons. Those that were weaponless stabbed out with their claws, piercing players' chests. The player army desperately retaliated, and their attacks either sent the skeletons flying or reduced them to a pile of bones. Swish, swish, swish. A massive number of arrows once again shot out from the left and right towards the chaotic battlefield. As the arrows rained down, countless players were killed. Great Kin's soldiers were hidden in the distance and only attacked with arrows, mainly to avoid fighting with both the players and skeletons. After all, Great Kin was unable to control all of those skeletons, so it was possible that they would harm Great Kin's soldiers as well. The player archers wanted to return fire, but because Great Kin's soldiers were so far away and were hidden within the surrounding forest, it was very difficult for them to hit Great Kin's soldiers. On the other hand, Great Kin's soldiers all had higher cultivation and better equipment, and their arrows were able to pierce 2 or 3 players at a time. They were on a completely different level. With the help of the countless archers, the player army was forced back by the skeleton army, and they were unable to resist them at all. Seeing Great Kin's strength, Liu Hongjian felt incredibly shocked. No wonder so many people had lost to Great Kin. The chaotic battlefield allowed Great Kin's city lords to attack the player army. Sword lights that were 100 meters long flashed out, and because the players were all relatively weak and all bunched together, each attack hit many of them. Each of the attacks caused thousands of deaths. The players' bodies were obliterated, making the gory smell incredibly intense. The player army was completely suppressed. They were attacked by the skeletons from the front, assaulted by arrows from the 2 sides, and blasted with attacks from the 12 city lords above. The battle was completely one-sided, and the player army continuously retreated while the skeleton army continuously advanced, and the death toll for the players continuously increased. Many people felt quite afraid, and seeing that there was no hope of victory, they started to run. Their battle intent was not very strong, and they had already been greatly scared by Great Kin. Facing such a ferocious attack, they did not dare to continue to resist. Seeing this, Liu Hongjian's heart sank, and he hurriedly called out, "Don't be afraid of dying. Maintain your lines. Even if you die, anyone who contributes will receive 10 times the rewards. Don't worry. The dynasty legatees and the various factions won't let you down. 10 times the rewards?" This caused the players who had started to escape to stop in their tracks. Those rewards were simply too tempting, and it was to the point that they were not afraid to stay and die. They would not die a true death anyways, so they would do it for the money. At that moment, another figure appeared in the sky, giving off a terrifying pressure, making it seem as if the air had frozen. Liu Hongjian looked up in surprise at the cloaked figure and thought to himself, "This is Great Kin Legatee? What a terrifying existence." Zhao Fu looked at Liu Hongjian and understood that he was the commander. As such, he took out a bow and knocked an arrow on it before drawing it fully. Whoosh! An arrow shot out, turning into a cold light that tore through the air and almost instantly pierced through Liu Hongjian's chest. Liu Hongjian only had stage 1 cultivation, so he did not have any power to resist Zhao Fu's attack. However, as Liu Hongjian fell to the ground, there was a slight smile on his face that was quite perplexing. Why would he smile as he died? Zhao Fu did not notice this strange smile and instead turned his attention to other parts of the battlefield. After losing their commander, the player army completely fell apart, and countless players desperately ran while the skeleton army madly chased behind them. No one knew how many players ended up escaping in the end, and this battle was Great Kin's victory. It was just that the 2 million or so skeletons only had around 1 million skeletons remaining. Players' corpses littered the battlefield, and Zhao Fu ordered the soldiers to gather the spoils and then return to Great Qin. Because they had the skeleton army, it had not been too difficult to deal with the players, and Zhao Fu smiled. Suddenly, Zhao Fu sensed that something was off, and he looked into the distance, a look of shock on his face. He had fallen for their trap. The three other player armies of 3 million players each were ferociously charging over, giving off terrifying auras. What made Zhao Fu's expression even worse was that there was an army of 1.2 million people coming from the east, who were all Stage 1 soldiers, as well as 12 city lords flying over. Great Qin was in dire straits this time. It was surrounded on all sides and could not run at all, causing Zhao Fu's face to pale. 562 Demon Domain doors, Your Majesty. What should we do? The city lords also sensed this, and they flew up into the sky, their faces paling when they saw this. Zhao Fu had never thought that they had already grasped a way to break through isolation barriers and that slowly advancing had only been a feint. Once Great Qin attacked one of the armies, the other three would immediately advance quickly. Only the high-ranking commanders knew about this, or Great Qin's spies would have long since reported it. In that case, how should they deal with this? Zhao Fu's expression became incredibly cold, and he did not seem as flustered. He thought for a moment. The players were quite weak, and he had measures to deal with them, but what about the 1.2 million Stage 1 soldiers? Great Qin only had 800,000 soldiers, and there were 600,000 or so Stage 1 soldiers. There were 200,000 or so soldiers who were at Tier 0 Level 8 or Tier 0 Level 9, but facing 1.2 million Stage 1 soldiers, it would be simply too difficult. However, Great Qin still held some advantages. First, the attacking side was affected by the event's buffs and had lost 30% of their stats, and their equipment was only secret silver rank, while at the very least, Great Qin's soldiers had fine gold rank equipment. Moreover, with the 5 general armaments buffs, as well as the Great Qin city's buffs, Great Qin's soldiers' stats were far higher than the system main city soldiers' stats. Since they could not escape, their only option was to fight. They would either win or die. I'll deal with the 3-player armies, you all take care of the system main city army. Zhao Fu said seriously to his city lords after making his decision. Hearing this, the city lords gathered Great Qin's 800,000 soldiers, who gave off an immense wave of killing intent. Ha ha ha. Great Qin can't run this time. Brothers, charge. Destroy Great Qin. Trash Great Qin, I'm going to do the will of the heavens and destroy you. Kill. Kill everyone in Great Qin and see if they can still be so arrogant. This elder's going to trample Great Qin's legatee to death. Countless players excited rushed over, with their 9 million or so players and 1.2 million system main city soldiers. They were completely confident that they could destroy Great Qin this time. Great Qin's 800,000 soldiers austerely faced off against the system main cities charging at them from the east, while Zhao Fu stood against the 3-player armies by himself. Countless players flooded over, creating a rumbling that seemed to shake the heavens. The aura in the entire forest of horrors became incredibly heavy, and many wild beasts were scared into fleeing. Zhao Fu stood in the air, coldly looking at the flood of players. The Sky Desolation Azure Dragon would only act when Great Qin was about to be destroyed. Even if the 800,000 soldiers and all of his generals were killed, the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon still would not act. Also, because the Golden Dragon had expended all of its strength to give Zhao Fu the Heaven Murder bloodline, it was unable to deal with these players either. Since the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon and Golden Dragon both could not help, Zhao Fu only had one method left, which was to use Great Qin's precious nation Fate. Even though Fate was very important to Great Qin, if its 800,000 soldiers all died here, the player army would be able to rampage throughout Great Qin's territory. The Sky Desolation Azure Dragon had guaranteed that it would not allow Great Qin to be destroyed within 100 years, but that was only with respect to Great Qin being destroyed. Even if the player army took over the entirety of the Forest of Horrors, causing Great Qin to have nothing, the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon would not act. Zhao Fu did not want such a thing to happen. As such, Zhao Fu decided to use Great Qin's nation Fate. Great Qin's fate was not as little as before. After the first battle at Heavenstone City, Zhao Fu had been very careful as to how he used Fate. After developing for so long, Great Qin's fate had increased, and after conquering numerous cities, towns, and villages, as well as destroying many legacies and conquering a lot of territory, it had 100 times more fate than before and could be described to be an ocean. Now, Zhao Fu planned to use up all of it. The sky gradually darkened, and a gale started to blow as clouds gathered. Everyone innately felt a sense of danger descend, causing their hairs to stand on end. It was as if a massive disaster was going to explode. In the air, Zhao Fu's black cloak lightly fluttered as he stretched out a hand and pointed it towards the sky as he roared, "Great Qin's fate! Gather!" Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as a gigantic whirlwind burst forth. The clouds started to rapidly spin as thunder could be heard from the sky. Traces of a black aura continuously rose up from the ground in the forest of horrors, which gathered towards Xiaofu. The traces of black aura soon formed a black flood that entered Xiaofu's body. Boom! A sky-toppling pressure descended that seemed to want to annihilate the heavens and the earth. The pressure almost felt corporeal and caused the ground in the surrounding 10,000 meters to sink down by 1 meter, and many trees and boulders were crushed. Cracks appeared in the sky as the ground continuously trembled. A massive wind blew as the light flickered, and it seemed as if the heavens and earth could not withstand this sort of power. In the air, Xiaofu was covered by black flames, making it impossible to see his body. Only his two blood-red eyes, that gave off an intense light, could be seen within the black flames. The countless players felt the dangerous aura from the sky, making them feel as if their bodies had fallen into a freezing ocean, and they couldn't help but tremble. The 12 city lords from the surrounding regions also felt this terrifying aura, and their expressions changed as one of them said, "That person's trying to cast some terrifying attack, quickly stop him." The other city lords nodded and sped up as they rushed towards Xiaofu, wanting to stop him, but 12 figures stood in their way. Seeing so many city lords blocking their way, the other city lords felt incredibly surprised. If Great Kin wanted to attack a region, that region would find it extremely difficult to defend. Now that Great Kin had such terrifying strength, it seemed that their plan to work together and destroy Great Kin had been the correct one to make. Demon domain doors. Xiaofu cried out from within the black flames as an orb that was as big as a fist rose out of the black flames and shot into the sky. Boom! The sky seemed on the verge of shattering as the black orb spread out, creating a massive black hole that spanned 10,000 kilometers. A massive amount of demon chi flooded out, and that demonic and dark aura filled the entire space around it. Countless demons flooded out of the black hole, giving off twisted, wicked laughter. There were all sorts of demons. There were not just little demons but also snake demons, goat-headed demons, and the like. What was even more shocking was that these demons were not made of demonic chi. Instead, they had real flesh and were real beings. The demon domain doors was the upgraded version of Hell's doors, and it was even more powerful. Only by consuming a large portion of Great Kin's fate had Xiaofu been able to use this skill. The demon tide gave off a shocking dark aura as it charged towards the three-player armies, and facing the twisted-looking and ugly demons, the players felt a chill within their hearts and looked completely terrified. 563 5 General Armaments Boom. An explosion rang out as the ferocious demon tide smashed into the player army. Blood and limbs flew everywhere as howls sounded out and death descended. The demons' attacks were incredibly cruel. Some tore players' bodies apart, while others bit off large chunks from players' heads. Others dug out players' hearts or simply sliced the players in half. The players also desperately retaliated. Even though the demons were terrifying, they couldn't just stand there and let themselves be killed. However, their attacks' effects were quite weak. Now that the demons were flesh and blood existences, they could think by themselves and evade their attacks. They were not like the demons summoned from Hell's doors that only knew to charge forward. Moreover, their stats were far superior to players, and unless the players hit the demons' vitals, it would be very hard for them to kill the demons. The demon tide was only a third of the size of the player army, but the player army was unable to withstand the onslaught of demons. The demons continuously pushed ahead while the player army continuously backed down as they screamed, and bloodied corpses littered the ground. Under the command of the 10 disaster cavalrymen, Great Kin's remaining 1 million skeletons rushed at the player army from the side. The countless skeletons excitedly started to kill, and facing attacks from two sides, the player army was forced to defend. They wanted to create a shield wall to give themselves some breathing room to kill the skeletons and demons in a more orderly way. However, most of the demons could fly, and before the player army could form a shield wall, it would be destroyed by the demons, and the disaster cavalrymen continuously gathered a large amount of deathly aura and launched them at the gathering shield walls. The players were not very unified, and their battle intent was lacking. They were not as thirsty for killing as the demons and skeletons, and they would often retreat because of fear. Whenever they retreated, the skeletons and demons would advance even more ferociously as they madly killed everyone in front of them. Compared to this disorganized mob, the system main city soldiers were all elites and Great Kin's true enemies. Even though they were from 10 different system main cities, they were already able to work together in perfect harmony. Their battle intent was also incredibly strong, and they were completely dauntless, giving off a terrifying aura. Great Kin's soldiers' gazes were also resolute as they gripped their weapons and prepared themselves for death as they gave off a similarly sharp aura. Charge! Both armies gave off a terrifying aura as they rushed at the other side, creating an astounding rumbling. At that moment, Bei Qi, Wei Liao, Wang Jian, Meng Tian, and Sima Qiu took out their general armaments and roared as 5 stars that gave off different colored lights descended. 7 murders. Open. Army destroyer. Open. Voracious wolf. Open. Heaven pillar. Open. Great gate. Open. 5 shouts sounded out as the 5 general armaments gave off different colored lights. Sensing this power, the 5 stars in the sky gave off an even more intense starlight and burst forth with shocking power. Great Kin's soldiers below now had 5 different auras around their bodies, and all of their faces were red. Their expressions were also savage, the only thing in their hearts was killing. Their bodies became larger, and they grew 2 fangs as they roared like beasts. Great Kin's 800,000 soldiers turned into a group of uncontrollable, maddened beasts, charging at the system main city soldiers without any regard for their lives. Kill. The system main city soldiers also exploded out with strength and roared as they gave off an austere aura and ferociously rushed towards Great Kin's soldiers. Boom. A massive explosion sounded out as the 2 waves clashed, making it seem as if the air around them had exploded. The 2 waves froze for a moment before the 5-colored Great Kin army started to charge through the system main city army. The 6th effects of all of the general armaments were released, giving the soldiers various buffs. The power they obtained was terrifying and far surpassed what the system main city soldiers had. After breaking into the system main city army, Great Kin's soldiers started to madly kill, their swords and sabers shooting out lights that killed the system main city soldiers. Even though Great Kin's soldiers were incredibly bold and courageous, the system main city army had a large numbers advantage, and their soldiers continuously rushed up. Clang, clang, clang. The sounds of weapons clashing continuously sounded out as the 2 armies engaged in an intense battle. The city lords in the sky also started to attack as the 12 system main city lords and Great Kin's 12 city lords all exploded out with their city lord seal's power. Immediately, the heavens and earth seemed to dim as a terrifying aura rushed out like a gale, blowing even trees and boulders away. However, at that moment, a cold and handsome-looking young city lord suddenly drew his sword, which streaked out like lightning, piercing through the chest of a fellow system main city lord. That city lord had never expected the cold-looking city lord to attack him, but it was too late as his heart had been pierced. Blood flowed out of his lips as his eyes closed and his body powerlessly fell to the ground. A black wooden city lord seal floated out of that city lord's body and was grasped by the cold-looking young man. The sudden change caused everyone on the system main city side to feel incredibly confused. They had never expected the cold-looking young man to do such a thing. After all, they had a common enemy, so why would he attack his own side? On the other hand, Great Kin's side did not seem surprised at all, as they had expected this. After all, that cold-looking young man was Janaya. After such a long time, Janaya had passed the old city lord's test and become Battle City's young city lord. At first, he did not know about this matter, but after hearing about it and finding out that they were attacking Great Kin, it was already too late. As such, he could only beg the old city lord to allow him to lead the army. Janaya, you traitor. You're killing people on your own side. It looks like old Luo chose the wrong successor. A middle-aged city lord furiously yelled. Janaya did not reply. Sneak attacks like this were not how he liked to act and was in conflict with his way of the sword. However, in desperate times, as long as it benefited Great Kin, it did not matter if he betrayed his principles. Clang. Janaya's sword flashed as it slashed towards another city lord without giving any explanation. The city lord could only hurriedly block, while the other system main city lords planned to deal with Janaya first. However, how could Great Kin's city lords allow them to kill Janaya? They gave off powerful auras as they turned into rays of light and shot towards different city lords, and a shocking battle erupted. At the same time, the battle between the 2 armies on the ground was still going on fiercely. Countless weapons clashed as all sorts of lights flashed about. Blood flew everywhere as people continuously fell. Battle City's 100,000 soldiers at the back of the system main city army also suddenly attacked the other system main city soldiers around them. Even though they didn't know why they were doing this, they trusted in the young city lord's orders. 564 Chaotic World's second stage. On the other hand, Zhao Fu coldly looked at the player army that was continuously decreasing in numbers and ordered the demons and skeletons to continue attacking madly. At that moment, Zhao Fu's face started to become pale because the drain from using demon domain doors was simply too great. Even though he was using up fate, his body started to be unable to bear the strain, and he wanted to get rid of the player army quickly. Otherwise, as soon as he lost consciousness, the demons would return to the demon realm. Zhao Fu couldn't pay attention to the other battles, but he knew that they would be incredibly bitter and intense as well. He had to get rid of this player army because if they combined with the system main city army, Great Kin would have no hope. The countless demons and skeletons heeded Zhao Fu's orders and attacked the players even more savagely than before. The ground was covered with corpses, and fresh blood ran everywhere, the gory smell making everyone want to vomit. Seeing how terrifying the demons were, many players did not want to fight anymore and started to slowly retreat before turning and running. Seeing that the player army was about to fall apart, the commanders yelled, "Those who run won't receive any rewards, while those who die in battle will receive bonus rewards." This made the players who were about to run stop in their tracks. After all, they had come here for the rewards, and they had gone through so much already. If they lost their rights to the rewards now, all of this would have been for nothing. Countless players gritted their teeth and started to counterattack against the demons and skeletons. Hearing that they would receive bonus rewards if they died in battle, the players did not feel as scared anymore and started to vigorously counterattack. However, the demon tide did not decrease at all, and the player army continued to fight with the countless demons and skeletons. The numbers on both sides continuously decreased, and death covered the entire battlefield. With the demons' evil nature and the skeletons' hatred of living creatures, as well as the fact that they held the upper hand, even though their numbers continuously decreased, they showed no intent of retreating. Their minds were filled with thoughts of slaughter, and the deaths of other demons or skeletons did not affect them in the slightest. This was what made them different than players. Even though the players had stayed, because of their terror, their battle strength had greatly decreased, and the battle leaned more and more in favor of the demons and skeletons. Elsewhere, the battle between Great Ken's soldiers and System Main City soldiers was also incredibly intense, and it was completely different compared to the scene with the players. This was a true battle. Both sides had incredibly strong battle intent, and neither side feared death. Blood continuously flew into the air, and people continuously fell, their life slipping away. However, the System Main City army was still at a disadvantage. They had to face the maddened and bloodthirsty Great Ken soldiers from the front and the 100,000 Battle City soldiers from the back. When the Battle City soldiers had betrayed them, they had killed many of the people around them. There were less than 30 people fighting in the sky, but their battle was not any less intense. Boom. 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 Massive explosions rang out in the sky, and the destructive power from that battle destroyed everything around them. The trees on the ground were easily obliterated, and the shockwaves made it so that no one dared to even go near them. This battle also slightly favored Great Ken. With the 5 General Stars' power, Great Ken's city lords were slightly more powerful than the System Main City lords. There was also Chunai with his extraordinarily sharp sword skills, forcing a city lord into passively defending without getting even a chance to counterattack. After all, if he was not careful, he would be heavily wounded, if not killed, by Chunai. A trace of blood flowed out of Zhaofu's mouth. He felt as if his body was being torn apart, and his consciousness started to go hazy. However, the battle was not over yet, so he could only grit his teeth and continue activating demon domain doors. Time gradually passed, and Zhaofu continued to grit his teeth and persist. He was not just bleeding from his mouth. He was also bleeding from his nose and even his eyes, and his consciousness became more and more hazy. By now, Zhaofu didn't have the heart to look over the battlefield, and he could only focus on trying to stay conscious. He bit his tongue, and the pain woke him up a bit, allowing him to continue holding on. However, why was activating demon domain doors so taxing? His body started to hurt more and more, and Zhaofu felt that the pain already surpassed the side effects of using demon domain doors. Cough. Zhaofu felt a sweetness in his throat as he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The demonic flame around him disappeared as his body started to ooze with blood. There was no time to think about anything else, and Zhaofu focused his very being on maintaining the demon domain doors. The pain became more and more intense, and it was as if his flesh was being carved away and his bones were being shattered. Zhaofu completely disregarded everything else, and he could only faintly sense that the battle around him was becoming more and more intense, as the sound of battle and shouts sounded out in the surrounding 10 or so kilometers. Finally, Zhaofu was unable to hold on any longer, and his consciousness faded. His vision turned black as his body powerlessly fell from the sky. After a while later, Zhaofu slowly woke up, and he saw Xianru's face. Right now, Zhaofu's body was laying on the ground with his head on Xianru's lap. "How is the battle?" Zhaofu's voice was a bit hoarse as he feebly asked Xianru. Xianru lightly smiled as she replied, "The battle has concluded, and Great Ken won. The generals are clearing the battlefields right now. What about our losses?" When he heard this, Zhaofu felt slightly relieved, but he had to worriedly ask about the losses. Xianru looked at Zhaofu, and her smile dimmed as she said, "Great Ken lost 240,000 people, and 5 generals died." Cough. Hearing those figures, Zhaofu felt an ache within his heart, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Xianru quickly stroked Zhaofu's chest to make him feel better and comforted him, saying, "Your Majesty, our gains were also incredible. We killed 700,000 enemies and obtained 100,000 captives. 300,000 people also ran away. Great Ken also killed 6 city lords and captured 1 alive." Commander Beichi and a few others have gone to relocate their system main cities. As for the players, only a small portion of them escaped as most of them had been killed by the demon tide. There were also less than 100,000 skeletons remaining. Hearing Xianru's words, Zhao Fu felt much better. However, he suddenly saw many system announcements, making him feel greatly shocked. System announcement. The heaven domain boundary has been affected, and the second layer has closed ahead of time. System announcement. The second stage of the chaotic world has been unlocked. Killing people of different nations will give a different number of war points. System announcement. Great Kin has used up its fate, causing a shift in fate, and the New Year festival has ended ahead of time. System announcement. Conquering Chinese territory will give additional amounts of fate, and killing Chinese people will give 5 times as many war points. System announcement. Chinese people, defend against the invasions. Killing invaders will give 2 times as many war points. Warning. If China's overall fate is lowered to a certain level, China's position as the head of the heaven and fate legacies will be lost. System announcement. Great Kin's legatee has received backlash from the heavens and earth. 565 Celestial Empire. After those system announcements sounded out, the whole world exploded from shock. No one had thought that such a thing would happen. They hadn't known that heavily wounding Great Kin would result in the second layer of the heaven domain boundary being closed, for the New Year festival to stop, and for the world to progress to the second stage of the chaotic world. Most people didn't know what the heaven domain boundary was, so not many people were worried about that. Countless people felt that it was a pity that the New Year festival had closed ahead of time, but the second stage of the chaotic world was quite dangerous. The boundary regions were already incredibly chaotic, with both sides hatefully fighting each other all the time. Now that there were massive rewards, they had even more of a reason to fight and kill, and there would no longer be any peace between them. One side would kill the other, or the other side would kill them. This would, without a doubt, intensify the hatred between two nations, and luckily, the passages between regions had not been opened yet, or else there would be wars on an international level that would affect an entire nation's fate. After hearing that they had heavily wounded Great Kin and that Great Kin had used up all of its fate, the dynasty legatees had been ecstatic. Now, they were far ahead in terms of fate. They also heard that 200,000 or so of Great Kin's soldiers had died, making them feel even more confident. However, they had never expected that heavily wounding Great Kin would lead to such a thing. It was fine for the other countries, but anyone who killed Chinese people would receive 5 times the rewards, and there was also extra fate up for grabs. With this massive temptation, even those who did not have enmity with China would want to attack them. The Chinese factions were at the center of the Midland continent, and there were 22 countries around it. There was no other country with as many other countries bordering it. However, as the head of the heaven and earth legacies, and being at the center of the Midland continent, China did not have to fear the surrounding countries. That was the confidence that it possessed. Of course, the other countries could only spy on them and would not dare to actually move out against China because they were afraid of retaliation from China. With their strength, there was no way that they could win against Great Kin. After all, China was not only incredibly powerful right now, but it also had a massive amount of fate, making it difficult for them to obtain an advantage against it. As such, they could only watch for now. However, no one was willing to submit to others and live below them. As such, the various countries would, sooner or later, act against China, wanting to step on the Celestial Empire and take its place, becoming the supreme existence. However, they had been waiting for an opportunity this entire time, and now, this time had finally come. Fate was no longer on China's side. Right after those system announcements sounded out, the flames of war erupted out all around Great Kin. China had been too confident, and it had relied on its status as the Celestial Empire and its massive amount of fate to look down on everyone, not putting them in its eyes at all. However, because of this confidence, it was going to go through a catastrophe. China's ancient clans, as well as the 100 schools of thought, all sighed, as they knew such a day would come. They knew of the threats on the borders, which was why they had tried to prevent any internal fighting. However, they had been unable to stop either side, especially the various dynasty legatees. In order to heavily wound Great Kin, they had even joined forces with foreign factions. Now, Great Kin had used up all of its fate, and Great Kin's legatee had received a backlash from the heaven and earth fate, which was what they had wanted, but they had also doomed all of China. Great Kin had been the first to build a town, then a city, and possessed much of China's fate. It was one of the 5 great ancient empires, and it also had China's clan armament. Moreover, Great Kin's legatee was the only person who had awakened the Myrtle Imperial Star. With its massive amount of fate, Great Kin had become China's main pillar, and now that it had collapsed, all of China would collapse as well. Now that there had been a shift in fate, everything would be fine if China could defend against the invasions, But if it couldn't, all of China would be in dire straits. China's fate had collectively decreased, resulting in all Chinese people's luck to go down. Not only would their land be taken, but countless Chinese people would be massacred as well. After hearing these system announcements, as well as the reports that battles had erupted all around China's borders, the dynasty legatees' expressions became quite unsightly. Their plan had succeeded, but they hadn't wanted this sort of thing to happen, as all of them would be affected as well. Right now, China looked like a delicious piece of meat to everyone else, and it would be surprising if no one attacked them. Out of the 22 countries around China, only Pakistan did not attack, while the other 21 countries sprang at China like ravenous wolves. The people on the other continents admired those on China's continent, as they could attack China and receive massive rewards. Some ignorant Chinese people, who also received this system announcement, felt incredibly angry that the New Year festival had stopped because of Great Qin. It was only the 5th day of the New Year festival, and it should have concluded in 2 days. It was rare for there to be a festival where they could obtain a large amount of rewards without doing much, so now that it was gone, it was a big loss to them. Screw you, Great Qin. Great Qin, I hope your whole family dies. You screwed me over, you idiot. Damn your ancestors, Great Qin. You idiots ruined the New Year festival. Screw Great Qin's entire family. Countless people started to curse at Great Qin continuously because their interests had been harmed. They did not think of who had caused all of this. If it wasn't for ordinary people like them, Great Qin would not have been forced into this sort of situation and consumed all of its fate. However, if Zhao Fu had known that consuming all of Great Qin's fate would lead to an outcome like this, Zhao Fu still would have done this. After all, he'd rather destroy the whole world than have the world destroy him. Back at Great Qin, Zhao Fu looked quite shocked as he had never expected such a thing to happen. He understood why he had been injured so heavily. He had received a backlash from the heaven and earth fate. Zhao Fu looked up at Xianru and asked, "You also received the system announcements, right?" Xianru lightly nodded. "Do you have any methods that can heal this fate backlash?" Zhao Fu asked. He felt that his body was incredibly weak, without any power at all. Even with his powerful sovereign bloodline, his recovery would be incredibly slow. Zhao Fu understood that this sort of backlash could not be easily healed. Xianru lightly replied, "You don't have to worry about this, Your Majesty. As the ruler of Great Qin, if Great Qin's fate recovers, it will help heal you. Also, the Phoenix Chi from the Emperor Phoenix statute can also help." 566 Great City. Hearing Xianru's words, Zhao Fu let out a slight sigh of relief and said, "Help me up." Hearing this, Xianru put one of Zhao Fu's arms around her and helped him to his feet. After standing up, Zhao Fu looked at the tragic scene around him and felt some pain within his heart. It was the first time that so many people from Great Qin had died, 240,000 in total, and before, he would not have even dared to think of such a number. Also, he had lost 5 generals, and it was the first time that he had lost so many. "Your Majesty." Seeing that Zhao Fu had gotten up, Jnaya walked over and paid his respects as he looked at Zhao Fu with concern. Zhao Fu feebly smiled and said, "Jnaya, you've made great contributions this time. If it wasn't for your help, Great Qin would have lost much more people against those armies." Jnaya slightly lowered his head and said in a caring tone, "That was simply what I should have done, Your Majesty. Now that the battlefield has been cleared, we should return. You must take care of your body." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt a warmth within his body, and he nodded before all of them returned to the Great Qin city. All of the soldiers' corpses, as well as system main city corpses, equipment, and items, had been collected and brought back to Great Qin. Following this, Beichi and the others brought the system main city creation stones to Great Qin. Great Qin had lost 240,000 soldiers, and 90% of them were soldiers who were not yet stage 1. Now, the army of 800,000 had become an army of 560,000. The 5 generals who had died were also ordinary generals, but Zhao Fu still had some impressions of them. Zhao Fu felt quite bad about the deaths of the soldiers and generals. Zhao Fu had never viewed them as tools. He had always seen them as people with their own thoughts and feelings, people who had given up everything for Great Qin. Zhao Fu could treat outsiders coldly, but he could not do so to his own people. After these soldiers' corpses were brought back, some were buried, and others were turned into skeletons, while the stage 1 soldiers' corpses were refined before being buried. Zhao Fu gave all of his soldiers the choice to choose what would happen to them if they died in battle. They could either choose to be buried or be turned into skeletons. Perhaps they would be able to regain their consciousness in the future. As for the refining of corpses, that policy had been set when stage 1 soldiers were rare and they had to best use their resources. Regardless, none of the soldiers minded. Of course, no matter what they chose, since they had died in battle, their families would be taken care of by Great Qin. They were given large sums of money as consolation money. In terms of their gains, Great Kin had gained 7 system main cities, and with Battle City, Great Kin had obtained 8 system main cities in total. Now, within the 4 regions around Great Kin, whether they were players or system main cities, none of them could form any threat against Great Kin, and Great Kin's path in the future would be very smooth. After Great Kin finished clearing the Forest of Horrors, it would clear out the surrounding 4 regions. It was just that even though they had relocated 7 system main cities, they had not been able to move many residents, as this would require a large number of soldiers to escort them. The resistance from the residents was also quite heavy, and after going through a big battle, Great Kin had to rest, so it had only taken the city creation stones and not the residents. The experience point and achievement points from relocating 7 system main cities was massive, but it was a pity that Great Kin still lacked one basic city to upgrade to a great city. Great Kin had enough experience point, but it could only be stored for now. Other gains were that they had obtained 700,000 system main city soldier corpses, which provided 700,000 stage 1 blood god pills. There was also the equipment from countless players, which was worth an astronomical sum of money. There were 1.2 million pieces of equipment. There were also the 100,000 captives who had all chosen to surrender. Otherwise, Great Kin would not have captured them alive. The 100,000 system main city soldiers could greatly make up for Great Kin's losses. Half of Jnai's soldiers had died in the battle, and the surviving soldiers, as well as Battle City's residents, were left to Jnai for now. Zhao Fu had Jnai go back and convince the old city lord. Beichi also re-established the 7 system main cities for Zhao Fu. Now, Zhao Fu was sitting in the meeting hall, and because of how weak he felt, he could not sit properly and had to have Xianru support him from the side. There were 7 people kneeling in front of Zhao Fu, who were Sun Wu, Chen Man, Li Mu, Du Kong, Liu Yaking, Nai Ushili, and Li Yun. Sun Wu was the mayor of a basic town they had conquered, and Chen Man was one of the people who had become a general early on. Li Mu was one of the summoned great generals, and because his loyalty was now 80, Zhao Fu could now officially make him one of Great Kin's generals. As for Sun Hengxiang and the other women, their loyalty was still too low, so it would be a while before Zhao Fu could use them. Du Kong, Liu Yaking, and Nai Ushili were the 3 SSS grade generals Zhao Fu had summoned from the disaster festival, and after nurturing them, they were quite capable. Finally, Li Yun was a historical general from later Zhou. The reason Zhao Fu had chosen him was because there was no one else, and Zhao Fu also wanted to strengthen his ties with later Zhou and grasp it fully in his hand. As for Nangong Shuayu, after he had left last time, he had been quite busy, and he had not been able to meet up with her. Great Kin now had 12 city lords, and out of Great Kin's main generals, only 2 people did not have city lord seals, who were Old Log and Daisy. As Old Log became stronger, his lifespan also increased, and he looked younger and younger. Daisy also looked more and more captivating, and her mature aura became even more enchanting. It was not that Zhao Fu did not want to give them city lord seals but that they were outlanders and therefore could not use human city lord seals, which was why they were not city lords yet. Zhao Fu had been searching for basic goblin cities or basic elf cities. That way, not only would they be able to become city lords, but it would also fulfill the requirement for the Great Kin city leveling up into a great city. Great Kin was already an advanced city, and it had enough experience point to allow it to rise to a level 1 great city, making it equal with a system main city. However, it still lacked one final step. However, as this battle concluded, the isolation barriers around Great Kin were destroyed, and Great Kin was no longer caged in. Xianru had immediately sent out assassins to bring all women with Phoenix Chi in the surrounding 4 regions, as Phoenix Chi could help with healing Zhao Fu's injury. Even though Great Kin had obtained a lot of fate from the 7 system main cities, that only served to stabilize Great Kin's foundations, and Zhao Fu had no idea when Great Kin's fate would fully recover. If it did not recover, Zhao Fu's injury would never fully recover, so Zhao Fu decided to also rely on Phoenix Chi. Great Kin's assassins were quite successful, and before anyone realized what was happening, they started to capture women. Only when Beichi and the other city lords came to relocate the system main cities did the residents start to run in terror. However, Great Kin's assassins had already completed their goal, and they brought 6 women before Zhao Fu. 567 China's shame. Looking at the 6 women in front of him, Zhao Fu felt a bit surprised as he knew one of them and had some impression of the others. One was Sun Sissy, and the other was the female city lord from East Green. The female city lord had participated in the battle against Great Kin and been taken captive at the end. Who brought her here? Zhao Fu asked as he looked at Sun Sissy, feeling a bit displeased. Zhao Fu did not mind other women being brought here, as he only needed their Phoenix Chi, but why had they brought his classmate? Xianru felt a bit surprised and asked, "Your Majesty, are you familiar with that woman?"